Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC 259, Adesanya versus Blachowicz for the light heavyweight championship of the world. Izzy Adesanya trying to get the champ status. Cody Saftic here in the studio. Hell of a card.
Multiple title fights, Paul.
This
They're not just Izzy
card
Adesanya.
of the year, and any card that's trying to compete with this card to be the card of the year, it's going to have a real mountain to climb. 3 title fights. I mean... And then, like, the prelims are filled with, like, a bunch of, you know, old legends or rising prospects. Like, honestly, it's amazing.
Whole card's loaded, absolutely.
It's card of the year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're able to keep some things in track here, keep everything together. You know, we're living in COVID times, though. There's 15 fights on the card. How many times have we had 15 fights actually go through as per plan? Not so many times, but hopefully... we can get her going. Make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Goes a long way to helping us bring this stuff to you.
Absolutely. And a fun card. Yeah, we talk about pay-per-views for what they are, and they try to sell you 2 Davidson Figueiredo pay-per-views back-to-back, and then you got a Kamaru Usman pay-per-view that had just absolutely no support on it whatsoever. So when you look at this, you see 3 title fights, you see prelims are loaded, main card's loaded. There's a ton of fights on this that could headline any other card. Makhachev versus Dober, Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic, Dominic Cruz versus Casey Kenney. These could all be their own headliners on free fight nights, right?
Yep.
These are arguably better headliners than you saw last week, right? What I'm saying is this is absolutely loaded. So if you are going to buy a card, I mean, you feel good about this one. And yeah, top to bottom, we've got 15 spots. We've seen the last number of weeks that we've been getting 15 spots. Of course, it shakes down to 12, 11. We saw last week it ended up at 9, although that wasn't a 15 spot from the beginning. It was like 12. So expect 3 fights to fall off every week. And in this card, I could see about 3 falling off. I'm hoping it's not the ones that you really like. And on this card, every fight is almost one that you like. So, you know, if they are going to get canceled, I'd really hope Amanda Lemos, Livian Souza is up there. God, I really like all these other fights. But
Rogerio Bontorin, I could live with that.
From a betting standpoint, I probably shouldn't bet that one altogether. So yeah, I agree. I could live with that. But the spots that we like, hopefully they stay intact, and I'm looking forward to
burial grounds. Betting burial grounds are filled with Kai Kara France bets.
If people find out after the fact that there are fights off the card, tune in to Mayo Media Network on Thursday and Friday. Mad Lab has his main event breakdown on Thursday, and then Brett Apley's DraftKings picks come out after the weigh-in. So hopefully, although it hasn't always been the case, that all the cards that are off might end up being announced at least by that point. So if you subscribe to Mayo Media Network, you can get those, or check out those short form shows on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets. The Mix, just search it wherever you get podcasts.
You like MMA? You like MMA betting? You like MMA DFS? We've got it all here for you. Probably the most widespread UFC coverage of anybody in this space.
Yeah, well,
Mayo
good.
Media Network.
Yeah, so not only should you check Thursday and check Friday, realistically, you have to check like an hour before the fights even start, because there's always like somebody's cornerman does.
I mean, Chaz Skelly versus Jamal Emmers, like that was.
Even the Angela Hill Ashley Yoder fight from last week, right?
If you,
like, they're always late cancellations.
Sure, but like Skelly in the cage, nothing you could do about that one.
That was funny.
Was rough.
Okay, do you want to know something funny about that? So Skelly comes out. I see him come out. The volume's not super loud to begin with, but I see him make his ring walk is the moral of the story. I go take a piss. I come back, and he's got his headphones on, and he's doing the post-fight interview. I was like, you have got to be shitting me. And the fight was canceled. But yeah, these things happen late. So as far as playing DFS, you get screwed. As far as playing these bets, which is what we do, you just get a push on. It's not the end of the world. And on a 15-fight slate, if you lose one, it's not the end of the world. No. Like, things will move on. So yeah, happy to jump in.
There is no guarantee that you were going to win that leg of the parlay, as it is. All right, main event, obviously, we've got Israel Adesanya taking on Jan Blachowicz for the 205-pound title. Obviously, Israel Adesanya is the 185-pound champion. He is a favorite at minus 240. Jan Blachowicz can be had for plus 200. I mean, you watch tape, and Israel is such an artist. We haven't really seen too many guys with this level of striking ability and his grappling and everything is starting to come together. Obviously, he's stepping up, and we always talk about it, going from middleweight up to 205. It's such a big, like the size of the guys is a massive disparity. That being said, historically, you look at a guy like Anthony Smith going up and making that from middleweight, where it seems like maybe the level of competition is a little bit higher. It's not as hard as you think to make that move up. But from what I've seen on the internet, sounds like Israel Adesanya is going to come in. He said like maybe 195. Like he's going to be pretty small.
I think it could happen. Yeah.
You know, he's got a couple inch reach advantage here. He's a couple inches taller. But obviously in terms of like their body makeup, their frame, if Jan gets a hold of him and is able to hold him up against the cage, track him down, could make it very interesting. But everything that you see on tape, Israel Adesanya is just too fast. I mean, in Glory, he's done a lot of kickboxing matches at heavyweight, at higher weight classes where he was undersized. It didn't really affect him all that much. Technically, on the feet, there's no comparison between the two. I think he's just too fast for Jan. I think that the line is right. I see a lot of people taking Jan as a publicly backed underdog. I just think, Jan, we know what he is at this point. He's going to more or less barge forward. He's got a hell of a chin.
Great chin.
And he hits like a truck. The Polish power is for real. His wrestling, I mean, he more or less just kind of barges forward. Sometimes he just kind of strengthens people down to the ground. That's what he's going to be trying to do here, and being in a small cage probably helps his cause a little bit. I just think Adesanya is going to dance around him from the outside. That being said, I don't know if you saw the video where he's diddling a dog, acting weird around his dog. He was like eating food, chewing it up, and then spitting in his dog's mouth.
Like a mama bird. You're not an Izzy fan.
I mean, I have been an Izzy fan the entire time. He's just being too weird. I know he'll be like, oh, I'm an artist. I'm going to act how I want. I want to speak how I want. That's all well and good.
Man, he's an artist.
But I'm allowed to think that you're a fucking weirdo for doing it.
That's fair.
Right?
But you can agree he's a weirdo that can fight.
100%. I'm picking him to win. I think he wins. I think he dances around the outside. I think he makes it hard on Jan Blachowicz. But stop being a freaking weirdo, Izzy. I also think the over 2.5 rounds minus 140 is where I would go with this. I just trust Blachowicz's chin. So Blachowicz has, an uphill climb. He's 38 years old. So much slower. This fight really comes down to speed for me. And Adesanya's got that in spades. So I think the price is about right, or maybe even some value on Adesanya. People have been betting Blachowicz down a little bit, but I think I prefer the over 2.5 rounds considerably compared to either side.
Jan Blachowicz is legitimately a Cinderella story, Cinderella man. If you want to look at the boxer James Braddock, he's legitimately a Rocky Balboa story. He starts off his UFC career 2-4. He's not exactly a contender from the get-go, and he just slowly grinds away and gets better. And sometimes it's not pretty, but he gets the job done. But at some point, he does get a decent run of opponents. In that, Luke Rockhold's coming up from 185. Chin's gone. He's at the tail end of his career. Big name guy. Gets the win. Jacare Souza coming up from 185. 205er. He's had success against these middleweights in the past. But these guys are at the tail end. Luke Rockhold's done. Jacare's done. That one still is a split decision, which I thought Jan Blachowicz won fairly convincingly. But still a relatively close fight against a 40-year-old Jacare Souza is not the greatest look. Corey Anderson, no longer with the promotion. He's in Bellator now and just didn't really have a very good chin. And then the Dominic Reyes fight. This is for the title. This is Jan Blachowicz. He's 37 at the time. He's 38 now. And he's in a world title fight. And, again, they're writing him off. He's the old man. He's the guy that started off bad. And he goes out there and career best performance knocks out Dominic Reyes. But it just doesn't feel like he's the legitimate champ, John Jones is the champ. John Jones vacated. Jan Blachowicz just got, that spot, and he made the best with his spot. Does he continue this Cinderella run? I'm not so sure. He's got tools that he can use against Israel Adesanya for sure. Namely, like you said, he's got that forward motion, good pressure. His gas tank's pretty good. His chin's pretty good. And he hits extremely hard. As far as this being a striking match goes, he's massively outgunned, but at least he can pressure a little bit to try to turn this into a grappling match. Get him up against the cage, try to peel him into the ground. Jan Blachowicz is a legitimate BJJ black belt, and he's got really good top pressure. So if he does manage to get this fight to the ground, you have senses like, I wouldn't want to compare this to Alexis Davis, Sabina Mazo from last week, but you have someone who's much better striker, against someone who's just grindier and slower, but strong and very experienced. And if they do get this fight to the ground, they can now grapple you. Like, he's got his spots there, but I think the UFC knows what they're doing. Weirdo or not, this guy sells tickets. He sells pay-per-views. They're putting him on the biggest pay-per-view of the year. They have high expectations for this guy. And he's not really done with the middleweight division, you know? Like, there's not a whole lot of contenders, but there's stuff that he could theoretically still do at 185 pounds. But they see an opportunity here where Conor McGregor's coming off a loss. That's our cash cow. He's coming off a loss. He fights once a year. You know, he's gone. Ronda Rousey, she's been gone for a while now. John Jones, he was never a big ticket seller for them. Khabib Nurmagomedov just retired. Like, who are the guys that are your stars? Who are your bona fide stars that are going to potentially go out and sell a million pay-per-view buys? You know, Kamaru Usman, again, he's having trouble selling. I don't know why they did that to him his last time out, giving him no support, but maybe they're trying to drive the point home. Francis Ngannou could be a big star for them, but he's still got some monumental tasks ahead of him.
He still has to beat Stipe.
Huge tasks, but they really want to build these guys up. These are the potential stars for them. So they're giving Israel Adesanya a title fight at 205, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Instead of making him fight a couple contenders in the division to work his way up, it's like just give him the fight right away. It's a good stylistical matchup for him, and that he keeps his fight standing. He is a lot faster. He's a lot sharper. He's got the good jab. He's got good kicks. He probably just hopefully matadors Jan a little bit and then just causes Jan to, you know, stop pedaling forward and eventually gets him. So yeah, I got Israel Adesanya as well. I really like the over 2.5. I mean, Izzy's not someone who's just going to go out there and bum rush for a finish. He's a surgeon-like striker.
He knows that Jan is dangerous. He's not going to just go in there swinging like crazy and leave himself undefended.
Right, and likewise with Jan, he realizes how good of a striker that Israel Adesanya is, and he has been hurt in fights before, even though his chin's very solid. You know, the Thiago Santos fight, that was a moment of like, nothing was happening, so he was just like, screw it, I'll go after him. It was just like, oh no, bad move. But you just got to get him to play to the pace of Israel Adesanya and just make this a kickboxing affair for the most part. Stuff the takedowns when they do come. Obviously, that's an element of his game he's been working a lot on, his takedown defense and wrestling, because who wants to really stand with this guy? Nobody. But you look at his last fight, and it's a masterpiece, right? Paulo Costa just stands in front of him, doesn't pull the trigger.
Oh, he was drinking wine.
He was drinking wine before, yeah. Well, that's obviously
probably
the
because
issue.
he was worried about how outgunned he was about to be in that fight.
Yeah, and like the Robert Whittaker fight, he painted a masterpiece. You know, he drops him twice. The Kelvin Gastelum fight, geez, not a masterpiece.
No.
It's 2-2 going into the fifth, but then that fifth round is a masterpiece. Like multiple knockdowns and just absolutely cruises on this guy. So I really do see the only one blemish, I guess, is the Yoel Romero fight, where again nothing happens. So Jan's got two ways that he approaches this fight. He either tries to go after him, and we've seen how that goes. I mean, he's an excellent counterpuncher. Israel Adesanya is. He'll just intercept you and, I don't know, hopefully hit you with something that hurts. If you don't go after him, you try to play this range game, you just choose you from the outside. Whether it's high volume or non-high volume, it is what it is. Now, if you want to just look at it on like the analytics side of things, Jan Blachowicz has had 15 fights in the UFC. He's never scored over 100 significant strikes ever in his UFC career. The large majority of those fights have gone the distance, and he has fought 5 rounds one time in his career. The time he fought 5 rounds is against Jacare Souza. He's got a 40-year-old massively outgunned here. He lands 71 strikes over the course of 5 rounds.
Hard to win a decision against Israel Adesanya.
Right, and so when you look at Israel Adesanya, it's like, oh man, the Paulo Costa fight, he's got like 55 strikes landed through 2 rounds. Like, he's just getting warmed up. The Kelvin Gastelum fight, it's over 100. The Brad Tavares fight, which is 5 rounds, is over 100. Like, he's just going to chew you up from the outside. So now your path is, I'm going to knock this dude out. It's like...
Or submit.
That's, yeah, you would think that's the move. You would think get this guy down and submit him. Could that happen? Absolutely. Could he be like a Conor McGregor, where it's like his striking is just so good that you overlook the fact that it's like, oh man, his grappling's not there. Right. But, you know, a Nate Diaz or a Khabib Nurmagomedov, like, is Jan really the champ? Is Jan really the top guy, or is Jan one of the top guys? You know, he's earned it. Listen, he's earned the spot. And I know there's a lot of people are cheering for him because you want to see that underdog upset. Yeah. You want to see the champion get decrowned. You want to see the undefeated guy finally lose that record. And with Jan, it's like, oh man, maybe he's the guy. But again, he's 38 years old. He's got 8 pro losses. It was crazy that he even got to an interim title fight to begin with.
Like, if Ankalaev fights Jan, who wins? I'd be on Ankalaev.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys in the division that I would pick over Jan. But again, he's earned it because he's gone through these named opponents and he's gotten the wins. But I don't know that he's gone through murder's row. I don't think he's fought in the biggest fights. And we'll talk about Thiago Santos, who's later on in the fight. Like, that's his last loss. And you see how much a few fights can change things. Like, Thiago has to get surgery, gets a title fight as well, gets surgery, sits on the sidelines, comes back to a bad Glover fight. Whereas Jan's beat a couple aged middleweights, and the Reyes fight, that's his career victory. That's a big one for him. But I think you could also write questions about Reyes and like where he was at. Anyways, I think we're on the same page. We got Israel Adesanya.
We both like the over.
We both like the over. Now, if we're getting a little too greedy, does this go 5? Does Israel Adesanya win a decision, or do you think he finishes them in the later rounds? Because my gut tells me it does go 5, but am I banking too much on Jan's durability that he'll just,
I mean, what is the price for that?
Yeah, paddle.
It would be price related.
Plus 225.
Plus 225.
I don't hate that.
Easy by decision. So last week I had Gane by decision, Ankalaev by decision. They were both 225 plays as well. And it's like you got the sense that it could finish, especially in a 5-round fight like the main event. But I mean, yeah, if it's just striking for the most part, and both guys got good chins, both guys respect each other, you see a bank in some rounds. Definitely the over 2.5. Beyond that, I'd start to get a little sketched out with it. But I guess if the official pick will be Izzy, the over 2.5. And if you're getting bold with it, Izzy by decision.
All right, we got Amanda Nunes taking on Megan Anderson, minus 1050 for Nunes. The champ is here. Anderson can be had for plus 675. Amanda Nunes recently just had a child with Nina Ansaroff, which, I mean, if you watch the countdown, if you believe in anything that you see on the countdown, she did say that, training for this fight was a little bit more difficult. This is a fight where she's taking on an actual, I guess Cyborg obviously was an actual 145 pounder, but like Megan Anderson is a big 145 pounder.
Anderson 7-1, cash it.
How do you like Anderson?
That $1,000 women's fight? Come on.
Maybe he's a foot fetish.
I hit these every time.
Pat, but this is the lady goat we're
talking
about
every single time. No one can ever beat these minus 1,200 favorites. Give me a fucking break.
If there was ever a spot for maybe not to see the best Amanda Nunes show up after having a kid, maybe the training camp hasn't been the best. She's obviously better at 135 pounds than she is at 145. I guess this is it, but no thanks.
There's no rhyme or reason to it. Just blindly bet against these
Pat, you are more than welcome.
Favorites in women's fights. Just do it.
You are more than welcome to bet against Amanda Nunes, but we've seen enough tape on Megan Anderson to know that she is nowhere near on the same level as Amanda Nunes. I would like to see Nunes try to get this fight to the ground, try to utilize, take Anderson out of her comfort zone on the feet where she'll have a reach advantage, that type of thing, but
I would like one of the
problem
listeners.
the problem is that this is basically unbettable at minus 1050.
Right.
I would like one of the viewers or listeners go into the comments section, and if you can do the research on this, that'd be very much appreciated. Also, subscribe to Mayo Media Network. That would also be very much appreciated. If you're an audio listener, rate and review the Dogger Pass podcast, pals. Okay,
5-star,
but
pal.
all of the, let's say, minus 800 or even higher women's favorites over the past 6 years in the UFC. I'd like to know what their straight up record is.
6-1? You just don't see it very often. That's the thing. Like
this isn't like Maria Agapova that you hit against Shayna Dobson that one time.
But he did hit that, so he's got.
We are talking about the greatest female fighter of all time.
Yeah, Rousey was too, and then boom, gone.
Yeah, if I'll play devil's
I
advocate,
have a plus 800 that I hit just before we went online here. I like that so much more than betting Megan Anderson.
What is it, a golf bet? Is that what it is?
It'll be Tim Elliott by submission plus 800 on a certain book.
Oh, you're talking about this? Yeah.
You can actually say the book. We're not sponsored right now.
Sports Interaction.
Hanging
a bad one. I see it's plus 375 in other places.
Yeah, that guillotine's live for sure. Okay, but talking about this point, if I'm gonna play devil's advocate to Pat's point, and the only reason we're gonna even play this whole devil's advocate thing is just maybe you don't bet that 10-1. Maybe you just.
I'm not touching the 10-1.
Yeah, is that it's real hard to get motivated to fight Megan Anderson. So now you got to figure that she probably isn't at her best. You factor in the child, you factor in the distractions, but here's the biggest thing, right? You fight Miesha Tate, it's a huge spot. You fight Ronda Rousey, it's the biggest spot. You fight Valentina Shevchenko, it takes every ounce of your being to win this, and it's a 5-round banger. Raquel Pennington dominates over the pillar to post for 5 rounds. She established herself. Now she gets the Chris Cyborg and Holly Holm fight. You get up for those fights, man. The Jermaine Durandamy fight, I didn't think she looked all that good. But it's the a girl that's established herself. She's a former world champion. She's got great striking. I need to mind my P's and Q's and work my wrestling in this fight. So it's the fight you get up for. Then you get the Felicia Spencer fight the last time out. And she just didn't look very good in the Spencer fight. Way good enough to win. And that'll be the case here. But it's a motivation thing, man. You got to get up in the morning and be like, I'm going to go run this 5K. I'm going to get up early. I got this baby that's crying.
She doesn't even have to do that because she's usually fighting at 135 where she has to cut all of that weight. At 145, that is not the division where I think she's at her best either.
Right, and so she's 32 years old, which is not old by any stretch, but she's already achieved GOAT status. Like, there's not even an argument. Like,
No.
you can't even make an argument. The only person that you can argue is Shevchenko, but she has 2 wins over her. Whether you agreed the second one should have gone down and the first one, if it was a 5-rounder, who knows what happens. It's like she's got 2 wins over the next, GOAT. She's the best. She's absolutely the best. So, like, what peak is there higher than being the best? Like, at what point do you just kind of get lazy? At 135, yeah, again, she can get lazy. She could, maybe not take it super seriously. And she just got such a huge advantage in the strength department over a lot of these women. But 145 pounds, a big, strong girl will give you problems. But Spencer couldn't. So, like, why would Megan Anderson? And, I mean, it's so crazy to think that we just talked about the whole run of opponents for Nunes. These are all the girls that are in GOAT conversation, right? Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, Valentina Shevchenko, Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm. If you're a Jermaine Durandamy kind of guy, it's like she's got wins over like the 6 best women in the history of this sport. What more does she have to do, right? Flip side to Megan Anderson, she's getting this fight on the merit of wins over Zara Farron and Norma Dumont. How do you go from that to this? We always talk about those levels. This is a colossal jump. Mm-hmm. So whether Amanda Nunes might be actually ripe for an upset, or maybe she's ready to relinquish one of the crowns and kind of fight once a year and kind of take a foot off the gas, it's like she still has every advantage in this fight. She is the more polished, refined striker. She's got better footwork. She got better boxing. And she's just way stronger. She got a better takedown game. She's got better jiu-jitsu, BJJ black belt. And I myself used to knock her all the time about her cardio's not good.
No, but that's held up now.
Yeah, it holds up against pretty much everybody except for Valentina Shevchenko. The cardio holds up. In the Durandamy fight, she was tired, man. It was like a hectic game plan to just out-grapple this girl every stretch of the way, but it was like she held up to it. Septum issue or not able to breathe out of her nose or not. This girl's a gamer out of American Top Team. They've just got great game plans for her, and she goes out there and whatever you can do, I can do better. She'll stand and strike with Holly Holm. She'll do these spots, but she's also smart enough to realize, like the JDR fight, if I have a significant path to victory here, that's what I'm going to take. And I would think against Megan Anderson, it's like, yeah, she can bang on the feet. She's 6 feet tall. She's strong. No doubt James Krause will have put a good game plan forward for her. But similar to me falling for the Kevin Kroom spot last time out, it's like, you could have a good game plan, but if you ain't got no skills, it's really hard to put the game plan together. He was just largely outgunned by Bruce Leroy in every facet of the game. This is another spot where it's like, maybe they do have a great game plan, but like, what's the best game plan? Press her up against the cage. But like 25 minutes is a long ass time to just press someone up against the cage. Like you're gonna have to do something. And in a case of you got to beat the champ to be the champ, you need to decisively beat this girl.
Mm-hmm.
You got to knock her out, or you got to dominate. I don't see her dominating. Knockout, it's MMA, could happen. But it's like you're gonna knock out Amanda Nunes. Good luck. So 10-1, it is what it is. I will say I like the over 1.5. Now the reason I say that is as badass as Nunes is, and she's got all the finishing ability in the world. Mm-hmm. You go back to the Felicia Spencer fight, maybe she doesn't take it seriously. Maybe she plays it with her food, but it's like, it's not a hectic pace. She fights a smart game plan. You get 5 rounds. The fight prior, JDR, it's another 5-round fight. She utilizes her wrestling for the most part. Holly Holm, pure striker, came at her, paid the price. Chris Cyborg, what a banger of a fight that was. But they bull rushed each other. You look at the Ronda Rousey fight, Ronda Rousey bull rushes her. The Pennington fight it's a 5th round stoppage, late into the 5th. The Shevchenko fight, it goes 5 rounds. Against quality opposition, she goes 5. Mm-hmm. Against girls that bum rush her, she finishes them because it's like they walk into the fire. Megan Anderson's only path to victory is to walk into the fire. And so that's not hitting the over 1.5. But I think she's sensible enough to realize, like, I don't really want to get hit by this girl. I'm going to try to drag her out a little bit. I'm going to try to tire her a bit. I'm going to try to wear on her a bit. And I think the over 1.5, it's minus 120. I don't mind that. I can't play Nunes straight up. If I parlay Nunes,
It's not adding much.
It's not adding almost anything, right? So do I take Nunes by decision? Geez, 25 minutes in there with Nunes is a long time, although her last 2 fights have gone the distance. Megan Anderson is just not on the level.
I'd be interested maybe
of those other opponents.
Nunes by sub. I don't know what the price is of that. But for the sick bastards like Pat that want to get on the Megan Anderson train, what's Megan Anderson by knockout, Pat?
Funny you say that. I was just looking at it, 14.5
That's
to
the
1.
play. Take the
I'm in.
the double if you're going to go on that. I would be pretty surprised to see her beat Amanda Nunes by decision. She's not going to win by sub. It's knockout or bust. So you might as well turn that plus 675 into 1,400 if you're going to go down that route.
I've never heard of this Anderson fighter before. However, I'm telling you, if you just blindly bet against these big favorites in women's MMA, you are up money.
We don't have any statistical backup on that.
I mean,
It seems
I've
that
now
way.
hit, like 3 over the past 3 years? Like, how often are there minus 1,000 favorites?
Pretty rare.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, minus 1,000 is crazy, but I've got a bad record now going against the goats. Whether it be Khabib or Max Holloway or
Imagine going against Khabib.
I know. Imagine. Yeah, because you chase value. That's the same thing. Khabib versus Gaethje. It's like, geez, Gaethje's a big underdog. He's got the calf kicking. He's got some wrestling. Maybe he can stretch it. Couldn't stretch it. With Calvin Kattar, it's a value play. It's like, he's good plus money price tag. He's got good technical boxing. Yeah, maybe he can make something happen. Couldn't. If you bet Megan Anderson, you're betting a value play. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a big.
And
big
what I'm
plus money
saying is
price
that
tag. But I've learned my lesson.
These situations hit enough that it is a value to put a blind bet on.
Yeah, take the 14-1 instead of the 675.
Sure, even better.
That's the way to play.
Then I can be wrong for the next 13 times, and it's still value.
Yeah, fair. We can move on from this fight. We've already spent too much time. It's pretty one-sided.
Mathematically, that is the play, 100%. If you're gonna go down that rabbit hole. All right, we got Peter Yan taking on Aljamain Sterling. Straight pick 'em here. Who you got?
Yeah, well, I'm a big Peter Yan guy. You know that. I mean, to back him up. His only pro loss is like a fight of the year candidate in Russia. 5 rounds, cardio checks out, skill checks out. The guy's just got skills everywhere and like advanced skills. I mean, you and I talk week in, week out about cookie cutter fighters. Yeah, they got some striking, they got some wrestling. Like Peter Yan really much is one of these guys that can do everything. He can strike, he can wrestle. His jiu-jitsu doesn't really seem to be an issue. He's not really a submission guy, but he's not out there getting a grapple, getting submitted himself. Cardio checks out, chin checks out, and it's just like aggressive. When he has to make adjustments, he makes those adjustments. He's getting outpointed in the Jimmy Rivera fight, but he scores those knockdowns, right? I mean, even in the Jose Aldo fights, like Jose Aldo's giving him a go, dude, but his legs busted up. The leg kicks definitely took a toll on him, and he decides to just straight up box Jose Aldo, and he boxes him up. And then, you see the shape that Jose Aldo's in later in that fight before he succumbs. It's like, man, Peter Yan is just an absolute wrecking machine. He's super confident. This is a guy that's been online for the last 2 years calling out absolutely everybody. He wants these spots. He wants these fights. And Aljamain is just like the perfect task for him because Aljamain's, he's legitimately the next best guy in the division. He's got skills everywhere. The guy's a fantastic wrestler, whether it's, you can't talk about collegiate success and all this and that. Like how he translates it into MMA is second to none. All of his shots are super well timed. He's able to get in on you. And if he doesn't get in on the takedown, then he's got a way of creating a scramble, maybe take your back. Once he does take your back, so long, so lengthy, immediately puts you in a body triangle. He backpacks you. He's got a great rear naked choke. My boy Corey Sandhagen had to learn that one firsthand. But he doesn't just have to do that. He's so fast, and he lacks power. But it doesn't matter, man. He's got great volume. He's got great
limbs
precision.
are very long,
and he's just super accurate. So like the jab, for example, the jab just keeps slamming you in the face, and then again, we'll talk about the Jimmy Rivera fight. He couldn't get Jimmy down because he's a little tree stump. So it's like, okay, I got to go to Plan B, which is outstrike Jimmy Rivera, and he does it on the basis of just long, way faster. In and out, hits the guy and moves. You see that in a lot of his fights where it's just he hits the guy and he gets out of there. He's got the length advantage over Peter Yan. He's got the wrestling advantage over Peter Yan. Aljamain Sterling's cardio, by the way, geez, it's fantastic. It's second to none. So it's a tough task to pick on either side. If you're picking Peter Yan, you got to deal with all those variables and all those problems that Aljamain presents. If you're taking Aljamain Sterling, again, you're going against a little hellraiser in Peter Yan. But I think Yan does keep this fight standing, keeps it as a striking match, and then is able to just outpick away at him. When you're Aljamain, you rely heavily on, some
Has anybody had
lackadaisical
success
kicks.
taking Peter Yan down?
I mean, he has been taken down, but he generally just pops right back up.
Has anybody had sustained success doing it? Not really.
No, but I mean, you got to look at the guys he's been fighting, and Peter Yan goes into every fight he's had so far in the UFC. He's a massive favorite. Like, he's going to go out there and he's going to smash this guy. With Aljo, listen, I bet Sandhagen over Aljamain Sterling. It was on the basis of keep this fight standing, and he's going to have the length, he's going to have the volume, he's going to have the better striking. But there's an open acknowledgement that Corey Sandhagen has poor takedown defense. It has kind of cost him in the past a little bit. It would be an area that you could exploit. And that's exactly what Aljamain Sterling does. So when you match him up against Peter Yan, again, I guess Peter Yan with the striking advantage, but Peter Yan has the better takedown defense. Peter Yan's got to keep this fight standing. And beyond that, if you drop a couple rounds, I mean, Peter Yan's the kind of guy that can fight well into the 5th round and just keep going, chew you up. So now we're seeing this trend. The fact that people are talking about banning calf kicks is ridiculous to me, but it just shows what an effective technique it is and what a game changer it can be. And with Peter Yan, over the course of 5 rounds, I mean, Aljamain Sterling, for one thing he does standing is he has a really long stance, right? So chew up the leg, chew up the lead leg. I mean, Aldo did it to Yan. Yan needs to do it to Sterling. And you could say the same thing. Well, maybe Sterling watched the Aldo fight and he's going to go with the same game plan. It's like, nah, see, Aldo has great leg kicks. He sits down on them, generates a ton of power. Whereas Aljamain Sterling's got great kicks, but they're not power kicks. They're like, they're water gun.
They're
gun
keep you
striking.
off of them to maintain distance and maintain
Distance
his
finder,
advantage on
range,
the feet. But he wants to get
chip
you down
away,
to the ground.
chip
That's
away.
what he does.
For sure. That's
Aljo may be like one of the best follows on Twitter too. I just think he's a cool guy. Love him.
Aljo, listen, I can't disrespect either guy here. This is world championship fight, and when you look at the main event, it's like, oh, fuck, dude, we got a guy that's not the top 205er in the world taking on a middleweight, right? Moving up for the first time ever. A great middleweight moving for the first time ever. We've got Emmanuel Nunes, the GOAT, taking on, it's like, again, we'll talk about Rocky Balboa. It's like Apollo Creed pulling out the book and being like, find me a contender with a good name. Oh, Megan Anderson. Okay, yeah, I'll fight her. She's tatted up. She's 6 feet tall. She's a natural 45er. Why not fight her? Like, that's not.
And she's going to be the new champ.
But to me, that stuff's not super compelling. Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling. Sorry, Paul. I got to go change my pants. Just the thought of that fight, especially because I think it shakes up over the course of 5 rounds. I think this is going later, and it's just going to be a very fun back and forth fight. So I see the over 3.5 minus 125. I like it. I think Aljamain Sterling, he's been knocked out one time by Marlon Moraes. You can call it fluke strike or not. It's like, it's just one of those moves. You look at Peter Yan, it's like he's never been finished. The guy's cast iron. He's just got like the will to die in there if he needs to. And
I think what you're dodging the most with that over 3.5 rounds is that Aljo gets him down to the ground fast, and Yan does still have some holes in his grappling game that we haven't really seen on tape.
I suppose so. But again, with Aljamain Sterling, like, even if he takes him down and exploits him with the submission, he got the first round submission against Corey Sandhagen, who had known deficiencies as a BJJ brown belt. But outside of that, like, he's not really submitting these guys. He's got the sweet knee bar over Cody Stamann, and that's dirty. And is he gonna go out there and but that's like a rabbit out of a hat move. Like, is he gonna hit Peter Yan with that? Maybe. But would I bet on it? No. Pat could maybe look at that Aljamain Sterling by submission prop, but I'm not betting because I'm not betting Aljamain Sterling. I got Peter Yan. I hope he just keeps his fight standing for more often than not. And he's able to out chip away at him. And I'm looking at that over 3.5 at minus 125, thinking Aljamain's path to victory is use your speed, stay to the outside, score takedowns. All of that just kills the clock, right? Staying to the outside and just striking from the outside with your distance finder kicks and your time management just kills the clock, right? Yeah. Scoring some takedowns should just grind it down. That looks to hit the over. With Yan, and Yan is my boy, he could hit you with a 65 punch combination, and it's one punch from a lightweight, like he doesn't. They're all so sharp. They're also stinging. You hear everything, and like it hasn't resulted in the opponent toppling over really early. So Sterling, and I respect the shit out of him. I think that he's going to be tough enough to take those shots for at least the 3.5. Is this a late finish either side? Could be, but I'm going to go with Yan, and I'm going to go with that over 3.5.
Yeah, I'm with
plus 350 by submission Sterling.
Sterling by submission plus 350, and he'd have to be the first guy to ever do it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, with Yan, we've seen spots. There's been spots. Is Aljamain Sterling the best grappler you've ever seen? No, but he's a one hell of a grappler. Absolutely.
He's got the good combination of very, very solid grappling and excellent wrestling.
Yeah, but does it happen one in every 10 times? I don't know. I don't even want to get that deep into it. The pick will be Yan. I don't know what side you're on, but I think he gets some rounds in as well.
I like Peter Yan too. I just think that the more damaging shots will be landed by Peter Yan, and probably a higher volume will be landed by Peter Yan.
This is the people's main event.
But I think I'll be cheering for Aljamain Sterling. I don't have any money on him. I'm a big fan of Aljo. I love him on Twitter. I just think he's a straight up, real cool dude. And so it would be hard for me to fade him here.
I would recommend pass on this fight. So close, could go either side. Pass on this fight. It's 50-50 either side, but it's like, ooh, it's just so high profile, and it's gonna be so fun that like the degenerate side really does get a hold of me. I force a play on it.
Maybe we force the play on the.
But I hear what you're saying.
All right, we got Islam Makhachev taking on Drew Dober. Makhachev minus 350 favorite. Dober can be had for plus 290. Islam Makhachev, obviously cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov.
He's my cousin.
Amazing wrestler. Obviously, comes from the same stable. Has been trained by out in
Eagles MMA.
Out in Eagles MMA, and obviously has spent tons of time in San Jose as well. He spent all of his camps basically with Khabib. Similar style. Wrestling is amazing. Only blemish on his record.
Did get chin checked once.
Got chin checked by Adriano Martins. Is that maybe a 1 out of 10 type of situation that played out that one night? Yes, but is it kind of scary with Drew Dober, who has been working with a very, very good camp? he tries to keep it on the feet. He knows the strategy. He's obviously got Trevor Whitman, sorry, my bad, in his corner. They were getting ready. They were getting Gaethje ready for Khabib. That obviously didn't pan out. Do I think that Islam's stand-up is on the level that Khabib's was? Because Khabib was winning on the feet against Justin Gaethje in that spot. And then basically, because Gaethje could literally do nothing right, was able to kind of drag him into the mat. I just haven't seen enough from Islam Makhachev to feel great about laying minus 350 in this spot. I think this is like a classic dogger pass. Give me Dober if I had to bet aside. I haven't bet
really.
anything
I
yet.
thought you wore that Russian T-shirt. You were trying to send a message that you were going to be on board for Islam Makhachev. He's your boy. He's not technically your boy.
So the chin checked by with Khabib. I never had to worry about this. I knew that his chin was always gonna check out. That is Adriano Martins. He got caught, and that happens.
He
in
got
MMA.
caught, right?
But this is a
go
dangerous fight, and he's just a little bit too juiced for my liking. I don't want to get. There's gonna be dogs that come through. That's just what happens in MMA, and I think that this is short, stocky. Look at the chin. The chin on Drew Dober. He's got Jay Leno. Jay Leno face, basically.
Yeah, he's got a Jay Leno chin. We always talk about the graphics pack. It's like you see his head, and it's like, man, how are you going to knock this guy out? He's super cast iron. But there's the path of victory in every Drew Dober fight, and that's don't stand with this guy. Take the guy down. And I would think that Islam Makhachev, coming from the lineage that you spoke of, these guys aren't dummies. They know the path of victory, and let's get this fight to the ground. But at 350, I completely understand. The Martins fight, which I took an absolute wash on because I was really high on Islam Makhachev. He's 6 days past his 24th birthday, right? It's his second fight in the UFC. He's taking on a former Pride FC vet who's got 30 pro fights and is a full-grown man. And yeah, he got clipped. He got clipped. It's a minute and a half into the first round, and he's not all the way out. It's a good stoppage, but like immediately he's all pissed off, like, shit, I got caught. Since then, you've seen a lot of improvements for him. Like Khabib never got caught. Sure, he never had that adversity, but this guy got thrown to the wolves early, man. He went right to the UFC at 24 years old. You look at Khabib's record, like something like 10 of the first 15 guys he fought never had pro records. Like it's kind of, he fought some cans, right? Makhachev's got in there and he's fought in good guys, although he hasn't fought in great guys. Chris Wade no longer with the promotion. Nick Lentz is at the tail end of his career. Gleison Tebow is at the tail end and is no longer with the promotion. Cajun Johnson was public enemy #1, is no longer with the promotion. Arman Tsukarian, again, he was like 23 years old. It was a really bad fight.
There's not much that happened in that fight. Like
Arman gave a good account of himself.
It was like 14-13 insignificant strikes.
And then the Davi Ramos win.
You gotta hope that you have the right type of ref if you're not throwing that many significant strikes and you're just using positional control. You got to hope that you have the right type of ref who's not standing you up all the time.
Well, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you got to respect the fact it's like, positional dominance on the ground. Because when you stand back up, it's like, this guy's pissed off and he's going to come out swinging because I was holding him down. So, yeah, there's a lot of factors. You need a good ref, you need this and that. But with Makhachev, it's like he's fought a lot of those like mid-range guys, no upper mid-range guys. And then finally, it's like Khabib vacates. Khabib's very public about like, I'm vacating. This guy's going to have his chance. He'll be the next champ. He's still, very young, only 28 years old. Yeah, there's a bright future for Islam Makhachev. But this goes back to what we always used to say. This is an old saying now because they're both bums, I guess, at this point. But with Chris Weidman, John Vellante, it'd be like, dude, John Vellante turns to Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman is the world champion. He's the best guy on the roster. Like, he's got skills everywhere. Like, Jean Vellante's in the training room with him every day. And it's like, right, here's the thing. So, like, Jean Vellante isn't Chris Weidman. And so with Islam Makhachev, like as 350, it's like he's Khabib, but he's not Khabib. He's Islam Makhachev. His takedowns aren't nearly as precise. He doesn't have the same strength. He doesn't have the same chain wrestling. He does have the style.
His boxing is considerably lagged behind what we saw from Khabib by the end.
Yeah, but ultimately there has been a blueprint that has been written on defeating Drew Dober, and it's the takedowns. And even though he's at elevation, even though he trains with a bunch of wrestlers, like the blueprint remains the same, and that's what Makhachev is going to go out there and do. So when you look at Dober, his last fight against Alex Hernandez, yeah, it's a sweet knockout. Yeah, he stands him up, but he did give up 3 takedowns, and the fight's, only goes 2 rounds. He is getting taken down. Hernandez. Makhachev should have the success. You look at other guys that have taken him down. The Beneil Dariush fight, he is lighting Beneil Dariush's world on fire, man. He is kicking his ass, and then Beneil just relies on the wrestling, takes him down, he's able to submit him. And then you look at the Frank Camacho fight. Like, Frank Camacho does have a BJJ black belt, but like, it's just a banger on the feet, 3 takedowns given up to Frank Camacho. Like, Dober's always been a striker, right? Right from the time that he even started MMA, he was an American Muay Thai standout, long, lengthy Muay Thai background, comes into MMA, striker. If you want to stand in front of him, he's going to knock you out. Nazareth made that mistake. Marco Polo Reyes makes that mistake. Alexander Hernandez, and as, I have the egg on my face from last week, but Hernandez just really isn't at this level. He's not refined enough to be taking these big fights. Dober clips these guys. And could he clip Makhachev again? Yes, could. But I really do think that Makhachev just completes those takedowns. It just holds this guy down. As long as his cardio checks out and he's able to do it for 2 of these 3 rounds, stay out of harm's way, then, there's a path to victory. It's the 350 where it's like, good God, no way. Again, though, I don't mind that over 2.5. I think you probably just take fight that goes the distance if you're going to take over 2.5. But Makhachev's path to victory is grind this guy down, take him down, grind him down, hold him down. Makhachev does have finishing ability. You've seen him knock out guys in the past. Does he submit Dober? I don't think so. Does he knock out Dober from a ground and pound position? Again, I don't think so. You've seen Dober's head. So if knockout's off the table, submission's not really there. How does Makhachev win? He wins a decision. For Dober, he's live for the knockout. If you want to chase a dog, Dober's a live dog, and you would probably chase Dober by knockout.
Yeah.
And get a really nice price tag. I'm just not in the mood on chasing on this fight. I think Islam Makhachev is legit. I think he has made a lot of improvements. I think he's got a high ceiling, and he's still got a ways to go. And this fight versus Drew Dober is a good matchup for him in that if Dober's takedown defense doesn't match up, he won't have to strike. He'll eventually fight guys that are going to stuff the takedowns, and he's going to have to strike for a prolonged period of time, and then we'll see where he's at. But I don't know. I will admit, you're right. Drew Dober, live dog, could come through, but I just don't think personally I'm going to pull the trigger on that one.
Alexander Rakic takes on Thiago Santos, -155 Rakic, +135 Santos. Who you got?
Okay, so originally I was thinking it's another live dog situation where you got Thiago Santos, who the reason you're getting an underdog price on him is because he looked dog shit against Glover Teixeira. But you can make an argument that the reason he looked dog shit against Glover Teixeira is just like, man, he was coming off 2 massive knee surgeries, a long layoff, probably a big emotional dump from the John Jones fight, which he lost a spirited split decision on essentially no legs. That's the highs of the high of the mountain. Now you come back, he's a little bit older, he's taking Glover Teixeira. Everybody, he's a big favorite. Like we backed Glover. I know a lot of people that actually did back Glover. Not that it changed the price at all, but it was like this is a layup for him in a return fight, and then he will factor into these big fights at 205. And he just looked awful. But when the guy says, "Oh, I'll be better next time out," well, how much can you believe from it? But listening to anything from him, seeing anything from him, it really much seems like, man, I was not prepared for that Glover fight. I was not in good shape, and still in that fight. Okay, again, you and I, we got Glover. The fight starts, I'm thinking, son of a bitch. He has got Glover rocked, man. Glover's hurt. A bad ref stops it. That's good ref lets it go.
Lots of Glover fights are like until he gets the takedown.
And then this is how MMA goes. Glover gets the takedown. He wins. He is just in such cruise control. I'm already counting my money. I'm already getting my victory tweet, getting ready. And then in like the third round,
ourselves on the back.
in
third
the third round,
round, terrifying.
Dude, he has got Glover rocked again. Like, so that's the problem with Thiago Santos is there's very few guys in the division that hit as hard as this guy. He's got a knockout win over Jan Blachowicz, something that is not very easy to do. He gave John Jones a thrilling 5-round affair on no legs. And he's just a notoriously massive power puncher. He was not in good shape his last fight, and yet he still had some definitely good moments. Takedown defense let him down. And again, that is a trend for him in his career. And so if you are going to bet Alexander Rakic, it's not on the basis of him outstriking Thiago Santos,
it's gonna
which
be
he could.
Utilizing wrestling.
It's get this guy down, man.
I don't know if he's as good of a wrestler as
Glover.
our boy Glover.
No, he most definitely isn't. But the one thing is Glover's not super athletic. He's more just like plodding. He gets a hold of you and he old mans you to the ground. That old man strength just gets a hold of you. Like there's probably no jar that has ever been created that Glover couldn't open. Like he's your grandfather that you're like, all right, Pops, I couldn't get it. And he's like, Pah! It's just like, damn, this guy's worked on a farm his whole life, but he's super strong. Rakic isn't like that, but Rakic is way more athletic, right? So he times his shots a lot better and he drives through in the shots a lot better. Well, one thing is that when you're on the ground and Glover's on top of you, you're not going nowhere. Like you're in for it. Whereas like Rakic, like you could explode and get back up, but that all costs energy. It costs energy to explode and get back up. And listen, Thiago's 37 years old. His knees are presumably compromised. Let's say he did heal them up and he did have surgery. They're certainly not what they used to be. He is older. You can make the case that he's not what he used to be, but it's like, man, he's still got a lot of problems. Alexander Rakic has been rocked before. Rakic got rocked by Devin Clark.
Being rocked by Devin Clark, who I think
I agree, dude.
is much more of a 185er than obviously a 205. Especially like in size. I know that Thiago Santos used to fight at 185, but man, was he like the biggest 185er you've ever seen kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's gotten bigger since. You see his chest now. Like,
I'm with you, man. I think it's a dog or pass situation.
Yeah, well, Rakic has to,
because now we're relying on Rakic, who's a European kickboxing champion, to utilize his wrestling. Like Glover, we knew the path is that we've got a guy who used to train with Chuck Liddell and who has a great submission game. And shit, it got dicey, and that was not the best Thiago Santos we had ever seen. Add into that I thought Yana Kunitskaya had one of her best performances recently. They're obviously spending a lot of time. I believe that they're engaged. Not that they're training together, but that means that they're probably both in the gym, spending tons of time. She was in great shape. She fought right until the final bell. I'm with you. Dog or pass, Thiago Santos. Let's go.
And then the very last thing we'll sprinkle on is that, so we were expecting if Rakic is going to go out there and spring this, he's got to use the wrestling, right? So this is a guy that went 1 for 9 in takedowns against Volkan Oezdemir and has a career UFC takedown percentage of 28%. Mm-hmm. So like, that guy's certainly going to put a wrestling singlet and turn into Jordan Burroughs? Like, I don't know, man.
Let's go.
So if Thiago shows up in shape, he's a live dog. And we've been back in favorites. I think Thiago's the guy that goes out there and bangs one out.
Casey Kenney takes on Dominic Cruz. Casey Kenney minus 135 favorite. Dominic Cruz can be had 4+ 115. Casey Kenney's just got to make sure he gets through the week first. After all that shit he was talking on
against Megan Anderson. If she finds him in the hotel, it could be game over.
She could definitely finish his night. That is for damn sure. Casey Kenney obviously is really, really rising in the division. Volume super high. Dominic Cruz on the other hand, and we've talked about this for years, about especially the smaller weight classes. It's really tough when your game is predicated on speed and mobility. Yeah. As you get older in these lower divisions, heavyweights, these guys can fight until their 40s. It is what it is. It's like playing like quarterback in football if you're not a mobile guy. It's like Tom Brady's able to be 42, 43 years old and still play the game. Heavyweight's kind of similar in that respect. You don't see like 40-year-old corners not get completely torched. Why? Because those wide receivers are so much faster blazing by. Dominic Cruz years ago was wearing he's got tape on his knees, like his ankles are always taped up. Like I think he's been through the grinder throughout the course of his career, and he was one hell of a champion when he was at his best. But this game at 135 pounds does not favor the old, and we haven't seen him a bit. Obviously, hopefully for his sake, Keith Peterson smelling like alcohol and cigarettes isn't
and booze.
Yeah, isn't the referee in this spot.
That'd be great if it was.
They wouldn't allow that. He got rocked in that fight. Like I didn't think that there was anything wrong with the stoppage. I thought it was kind of bad that he had called out Keith Peterson like that. And obviously Keith Peterson with like the neck tat and stuff, like he looks like he would smell like alcohol and cigarettes.
I can smell him through my TV screen.
This is like kind of like one of those, like, I feel like it's like the line that like for the public guys, people who've like tuned in for years and years and years. Maybe they don't know who Casey Kenney is, haven't been watching his most recent fights. They're always on like early prelims. They say, oh, Dominic Cruz, former champion, lost to Henry Cejudo and only the top guys in the division. But I feel like we're at a precipice where I think Casey Kenney, his volume, everything like that, he's just taking it to a different level. I'm not willing to drop anything on Dominic Cruz in this spot. Casey Kenney is the pick. I haven't bet anything yet.
Okay, so again, I completely agree in that, man, how can you go with Dominic Cruz? I mean, he's only 35 years old, but his body is just shot to bits. I mean, he's had multiple cadaver knees. If you don't know what cadaver is, it's a dead body. They took a knee out of
they took like the
ACL
tendons.
They take the tendon out. The first time it actually, his body rejected it, right? So he has to go through a second massive surgery. Again, when he came back to the UFC in 2016 against TJ Dillashaw, no one thought he was going to come back. No one thought he was going to beat TJ Dillashaw. Kind of really didn't beat TJ Dillashaw, but it was a great story, and they gave him a split decision win. And it's like, boom, he retains the title. It's huge. They don't make him fight a number one contender. They make him fight Uriah Faber, just because it was a fun fight that had some history. Both guys had fought before. Let's run this one back. He's he's well liked by UFC brass. You know, he's got a great commentating gig, and he's a great commentator. He's a smart guy. He's a great training partner. He's a good coach. By all accounts, I mean, Dominic Cruz is someone who's just, his brain is way farther than the game. He's always 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of everybody in terms of the game. However, his body is just not those levels ahead. And so, you know, that movement, the striking, the wrestling, it's all there. It's like, is he able to put it together? Again, only 35, but his body's just shot to bits. You mentioned his knees, man. His knees look like an Egyptian pharaoh getting ready to get buried, man. It's just like taped up everywhere. It's like he's compromised. Surely he's a compromised fighter. But again, he's well liked by the company. So he doesn't tell them, I want to fight young up-and-comers. I want to fight these guys. He wants the big fights, and they give him these big fights. You know, he gets Henry Cejudo coming off a fucking near 4-year-long layoff. And he gets a title fight against Henry. You can make the argument he took it on short notice and this and that. It's like, no, they were only going to give him these big fights. These are the fights that he's choosing. These are the ones he wants. You lose to Henry, it's no big deal. But the fact remains, he has not won since that Uriah Faber fight, which was, can you guess?
2014.
Well, I mean,
2015.
2016. However, UFC 199, which was the night that Michael Bisping became the middleweight world champion, knocking out Luke Rockhold. That was nearly 5 years ago. And that was the last time Cruz picked up a victory against a rival who he clearly had his number, and it wasn't. And
who was also over the hill at that point.
Yeah, and he was a minus 425 favorite over Uriah Faber because it was a joke of a fight, and everybody knew it from the get-go. So you beat him. That's nearly 5 years ago. Then you lost to Cody Garbrandt. You had another knee injury. You had another long layoff. You come back from that. They give you the big fight against Henry. It wasn't an early start. Maybe it was. I don't know. But he was taking a lot of damage. You got to give him that. He's got a cool broadcasting career. He's a sharp guy. He's a smart guy. He's 35. You know, I drank a fifth of vodka and had a couple ciggies before the fight. I'm stopping it, okay? Keith Peterson probably.
I mean, it was at the beginning of the pandemic. The smell of alcohol could have been hand sanitizer. And fuck, cigs aren't illegal.
Yeah, it's just it screamed to me like, you know, he was being
sour grapes.
Yeah, like big time sour grapes. He's being a bit of a bitch. He didn't stand up and say anything. He didn't say anything. He was just like afterwards, kind of like there's no post-fight press conference or anything like that. But it's like afterwards, he just like slips it in like, yeah, you know, it was an early. I didn't believe in the stoppage. You know, he smelled like cigarettes and booze. And like Megan O'Leary doesn't even know how to take him seriously. She's just like, are you like, that's a serious allegation, man. This guy was on the commission.
Trying to ruin the guy's career.
Yeah, like what the fuck is going on here? But anyways, as much as we can talk about all of that, he does have some tricks that he could pull out of his sleeve to potentially win this fight. So Casey Kenney's got the volume. But Dominic Cruz has got volume as well. So as far as if they both go out there and it's just a striker versus striker match, like Cruz is not going to be totally out of his element. But what Casey Kenney's been doing a lot lately is mixing in his wrestling, right? The guy did wrestle collegiately. I believe he does have a judo base as well. And he's got some decent takedowns. He's not fucking taking down Dominic Cruz. I don't care how shot his knees are. This guy's takedown defense is tremendous. And beyond that, if you manage to take him down, he's getting right back up. So takedowns off the table, we got striker versus striker. Well, that actually does kind of play into Cruz's favor. When you look at Casey Kenney versus Woods his last time out, it's like, man, he starts out really well, but then he starts to fade a little bit. Like the output maybe gets to him. I don't know. It's a tough fight.
That Wood fight was really, really soon after the Alatang.
And that's the excuse I'll make for him. Is that so he fought Haile Alatang. His leg must have been mincemeat.
He kicked him like 3,000 times.
He left Abu Dhabi, flew back to the States, and then took this fight 3 weeks later, had to fly back to Abu Dhabi, and then was at a catchweight of 140. So it's like, yeah, he wasn't.
He was just trying to get paid a second time quickly.
Right, he's lucky to get the win though, man. That was a really close fight against Nathaniel Wood. And again, you can argue that he lost the fight if you argue that he lost maybe the end of round 2 and he lost round 3. But it's like it's a big pace, but he relies on that wrestling. That's what is able to save him. If it doesn't save him against Cruz can get a pace going on this guy. Then like, why not, right? I mean, he's got tons of back class. And again, the last thing is you and I speak about this all the time. Cruz has fought Cody Garbrandt. He's coming off a fight with Henry Cejudo. He's fought the best guys that the division has to show. It's a lot of class. Casey Kenney has fought Louis Smolka, Haile Alatang, and Nathaniel Wood is the big win for him, probably his career best win. But it was like a really close decision.
He's got to get through the week without getting dusted by Megan Anderson as well.
Yeah, but
Who, the new champ?
The new champ.
You know what? Hopefully they make it. You know what they should do? Women's featherweight. There's no interest in the division, right? Right or wrong? There's no interest in the division. They should just make it a 24-hour title, WWF style. Megan Anderson lifts it. Casey Kenney with a shot backstage. Now he's the 24-hour champ, and then by the end of the night, I bet you Sean Brady's got the belt. What I'm saying is add a little excitement to the division. I think we've said what we said. I want to say Casey Kenney, but because I just got this thing where I can't fully overlook Cruz just yet. And a 15 fight slate, again, this is one I want to have action on because it's going to be a fun fight. I think the best move might be pass.
That's fair. All right, we got Song Yadong taking on Kyler Phillips. Song Yadong minus 185 favorite. Phillips can be had for plus 160. Who you got here?
Yeah, so this is the spot where I'm going to take a shot on the underdog as well, Kyler Phillips. Like, he doesn't have the resume. He's obviously young into his UFC career. He's got one fight. We know him from The Ultimate Fighter, where he lost to our boy, Brad Katona. And, like, in hindsight, that's not exactly a very good loss. As far as, like, international rankings, UFC highest level, that kind of thing. It's that he's, like, really young on The Ultimate Fighter. He's, like, 22 years old. He lost to Victor Henry in his first fight after The Ultimate Fighter. And, again, the guy loses. A split decision to an absolute animal in Victor Henry, who's just fought all over the world, mostly Japan, I guess, but it's just, a very good fighter. And then since then, it's like you see Kyler Phillips really start rounding up his game and just like putting all these elements together. But again, if you want to talk about a guy that utilizes the calf kick extremely well, Kyler Phillips, man. I mean, this guy loves to go to the leg. He loves to slow down his opponent. He's really fast. He's really athletic. And the body of work's not quite there. It really isn't. He's got 2 wins in the UFC. Gabriel Silva, who I believe's Eric Silva's brother, and we all know how the Eric Silva went. And then Cameron Ellis, which is like, oh, come on, man. This is a gimme on a silver platter. Did he look good in those fights? Yeah, I thought he looked good in those fights. And he is still very young. He's only 25 years old. So I'm trying to bank on these improvements that he's going to be making and go out there. But with Song Yadong, one, he's just fought much better guys. I mean, the guy shows a win over Marlon Vera. He went 3 hard rounds with Cody Stamen. He's got even a win over Alejandro Perez is more significant than anything that Kyler Phillips has ever done. And then beyond that is that you need to knock this man out or render him unconscious, or he gets a draw at worst. Like, he lost the Marlon Vera fight. He lost the Cody Stamen fight, but they're not looking to bust their Chinese prospect, and he gets the nod on the scorecards. Mm-hmm. He's a very good technical boxer. I mean, Song Yadong's got really good hand speed for the division, good combinations, good power. And as far as, even if he's losing exchanges, he'll land the more significant punches, and they're more head-turning fights, the punches. The Cody Stamen fight, like, he's kicking Cody Stamen's ass standing. The takedown defense lets him up a little bit. The Marlon Vera fight, it's like Marlon Vera has proven himself to be a very credible competitor. And again, Marlon has a slow start, comes on a little bit too late, but Song Yadong's in it tit for tat with this guy. Whenever Marlon starts to like run away with a little bit, and it's just like, oh, dude, he's outlanded him 10-1 in the last 2 minutes. It's like Song Yadong found a way to just put it all together. But what I'm hoping with Kyler Phillips is that he just searches the leg kicks. This guy's more of a boxer. You can work that leg kick, try to mix in some wrestling. He's definitely the underdog. I definitely do see it, but he's going to be well prepared. You look at this card features Casey Kenney, Kyler Phillips, and where is he at? Mario Bautista, right? Mm-hmm. They're all out of the MMA lab. They're all 135 pounders. They're going to be well prepared.
Yep.
They're going to work those leg kicks. Sean O'Malley's another MMA lab 135er. They got a good scene there, a good setup, and you see it almost universally from all their guys. They love to work the calf kick. I'm really hoping that game plan. Song Yadong arguably robbed Stamen. He arguably robbed Marlon Vera. He's not smoking these guys.
No.
They're close competitive fights. I'm hoping Kyler Phillips can force him in a close competitive fight and hopefully come on the other side. If that plus 160 doesn't hit, that over 2.5, I don't mind that as well. I think Kyler Phillips is going to have to slow this thing down and hopefully get some takedowns and work the leg kick. Song Yadong's super durable. And as far as him landing these hellacious punches, he's not knocking these guys out for the most part. Good level competition. Kyler Phillips also does have a good chin. So I see it getting some rounds in. I see it going the distance.
I'm with you.
But the plus 160, I'm willing to take a dog shot on Kyler Phillips.
Dog or pass type of situation. Yeah, exactly. Song Yadong has been kind of just inflated odds every single time that we've seen them in there.
He looks good.
He looks good. He belongs, but I just think
he's only 23 as well. Like, he's primed for someone to show him a lesson.
It could be a lot more of a 50-50 fight here is essentially what we're saying.
Yeah.
And plus 160. Yeah, let's give her a shot. All right, we got Askarov taking on Joe B1, Joseph Benavidez, minus 120 Askarov, plus 100 Benavidez. Benavidez hasn't obviously won in a long time. Again, we're kind of talking about older, a little bit longer in the tooth, lower weight class guys. He used to have pretty good durability. Obviously, Demetrius Johnson knocked him out, but Davis and Figueiredo now twice absolutely lit him up.
Well, I mean, it's understandable.
Of course, we're talking about the champion. He's fought the who's who of 125 pounds for the last decade. He's always been up near the top, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Askarov, though, his fights in the UFC, it's not like he's had like an easy path here. They're not just giving him layups and stuff, and he belongs at that level too. I do think it's a very, very close fight. It's not a fight I'm very, very interested in betting. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this one, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, so I'm a huge Askarov guy. Comes to the UFC, with Russian prospect, and looks good, man. This guy's scrambles are great. His cardio is good. His striking work in progress, but it's still pretty good. And I back him over Brandon Moreno first time out. He gets a split draw. I was happy with that. I didn't think he won that fight. He looked good. He didn't look great. But it's Brandon Moreno. I mean, talk about a tough fight right out the gate. Then he gets Tim Elliott his next time out, and he gave up 3 takedowns to Tim Elliott. He wasn't looking particularly good until Tim Elliott got tired. Got the win. Another win for Askarov. I'm happy. Didn't look great. And then the Pantoja fight. That's a nice big win for you for sure. But it's like the way he gave up his back, got backpacked, got controlled, gave up takedown, got outstruck in a few spots. Not particularly super high volume. Okay. Askarov is a contender in this division. He can do a lot of good things. But where do you beat Joseph Benavidez with that said skill set, right? Joseph Benavidez is nearly a flawless fighter. The problem is like that one little thing is he can't take a punch, right? He's almost like a Luke Rockhold.
He can take a punch, but he just struggles against some of the elite at taking a punch.
Okay, you're right. And they normally you have to fight the elite when
he doesn't have an elite chin. Everything else, like all of his other skills, are great.
You're absolutely right. I can't discredit him, right? Because he got knocked out by Davidson Figueiredo, the biggest power puncher, 125 pounds seen since John Lineker failed to make weight a few times. And outside of that, it's like he got knocked out by Demetrius Johnson, the actual GOAT of 125 pounds.
And then fought him again and went 5 rounds.
Yep, you're right. It's no discredit. Joseph Benavidez does not have a compromised chin. But it goes back to what you said, right? He's 36 years old, fighting in the fastest division in the sport. These guys are extremely fast. They're extremely versatile. It's speed. And his biggest thing is that he's always been the fastest guy. He's always been the number 2 guys. Again, you mentioned it. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. He's always been the number 2 guy. He couldn't quite beat Demetrius Johnson. DJ leaves. He can't quite beat, Figueiredo. He's that number 2 guy. But it's like, man, his skills are extremely advanced. His cardio, excellent, right? The guy does not tire. His striking, made a lot of improvements. You talk about Davidson Figueiredo. He outstrikes Davidson Figueiredo in the first round, bops him up. His boxing is on point, great volume. Mm-hmm. The problem is that he's playing with fucking fire. Mm-hmm. And he actually gets headbutted, which leads to the knockout. Doesn't matter. And the second time, he's a little concussed. It was a quick turnaround. Not a good spot for him. It's a lot worse the second time. But there's no discrediting. It's like, this guy's got good striking. Should he do it for the entire fight? Maybe not. But mix it in. Good wrestling, good striking, good cardio. His submission game is awesome. And that's another thing he could use against Askarov. Askarov likes to scramble, but he tends to give up his back a little bit. So like Joseph Benavidez, it's like I could see him having success striking. He's got the better hands. Even though his speed's starting to leave him a little bit, he's still one of the fastest guys in the division. I can see him getting to the punch. As far as the wrestling goes, Askarov, that's what he's been doing. You're gonna go take out Joseph Benavidez? That's your game plan? You're just gonna take him down? He's just gonna get back up. You gotta chin check this guy. And that's one thing that Askarov really hasn't shown. He's got 3 career knockouts. None of them are super high profile. He's not really a power puncher. So if you don't get Benavidez's respect with the strikes, it's like you're going to wrestle and grapple this guy for 3 rounds. And if that's the case, and just Benavidez is technically the underdog, he's a live underdog. This is a dog or pass. And I love Askarov. This is my boy. But it's like, if you don't have big power that can get Benavidez off of you, he's going to keep coming. And if he keeps coming, he's live in a small cage in Las Vegas. He's skilled
in every facet of the game.
Yeah, so I wish I had a better price because I wish more people were like, oh, dude, it's so chinny, can't take him. Like, I wish that was more of a narrative.
I think he was like plus 150 at one point, and people scooped it right up, and rightfully so. That would have been the play. But
there's a couple of these lines we've missed by the time we've done this show. But
that happens every week now.
We've had plus money underdogs that are now the favorites that we'll talk about in a minute here. But it's like, I guess this is one of them.
All right, we got Kai Kara France taking on Rogerio Bontorin. Kai Kara France, minus 135. Usually he's like minus 300 in pretty much every
People are starting to wise up a little bit.
People have lost a lot of money betting on Kai Kara France. Bontorin can be had for plus 115. Any hot takes here? Okay,
so we got another guy. He's a notorious apple pie shitter. I mean, he lost the fight to Brandon Royval. He lost the fight to Brandon Moreno. But beyond that, he robbed Rolia and Paiva and needed 3 full rounds to deal with Elias Garcia and Mark De La Rosa. all of his wins in the UFC, right? So he's got Elias, Rolian Pava, Mark De La Rosa, and Tyson Nam by decision. His loss to Brandon Moreno decision, his last time when he got caught in a guillotine choke. So he's more of a decision guy. But in the Royval fight, like, he hurt Royval, he dropped him early, but then Royval got back up and dropped him, like, hurt him. So, you know, even though I bank most of his fights to go to decision, and looking at this one, it's another spot where it's like the over 2.5, it's minus 220. They think it's going to go to decision. I don't love him because he's just not doing enough, you know? Like, he's a city kickboxing guy. He's on a card with Israel Adesanya. He's on a card with this Carlos Ulberg, who we'll talk about next, or 2 fights later. He's got teammates on the card. He's going to be well prepared. But, like, he's always got teammates on the card. He's always well prepared. He just never really fully gives a great assessment of himself. His striking's good. It's sharp. It's technical. Maybe lacks some power. Maybe lacks some of that finishing ability. But he just doesn't stay on his opponents enough. You know, the wrestling is not using. His takedown defense is good. He's just more of a generalist. You know, he's got some skills in all these areas, but he's super hyped. You know, he's a good-looking kid. He's out of the hottest gym in MMA right now just because, you know, it's a fan-favorite gym, I guess. They're producing a lot of great kickboxing champions. He's expected to fit that mold, and maybe he just hasn't lived up to that. But beyond that, Rolian Pava's a badass. Brandon Moreno is a badass. And Brandon Royval, like, dude's super tough, man. So, like, he has at least been fighting good guys. It's just, yeah, he's shitting a few apple pies for me. Rogerio Bontorin, he shit in the pie. It wasn't his fault. It was Rolian Pava's eyebrows' fault. But, like, I don't like Bontorin a whole lot, man. He's super strong. He's super aggressive, but he's extremely one-dimensional. His striking is super herky-jerky. You know, it's stiff. He's got power, no doubt about that. The guy's a super, you know, he's a well-put-together young man, you know, built. But he's, like, not a very diverse striker. But what he does is strike, crash the pocket, pressure you up against the cage, peel you to the ground. When he does get these guys to the ground, he's got a really good BJJ black belt. That's his path to victory for sure. It's just, like, beyond that, I just don't think he's got the full, well-rounded skill set. In his debut against Magomed Bulatov, he won a split decision, but it was a very close fight. Could have gone either way. He got the win. It was a big upset win, but I didn't think he looked tremendous. The Rolian Pava fight, his eyes swollen shut, right? And then he bum rushes Pava, lands like a knee, cuts him, and they stop it. But, like, otherwise, that ain't going to go good for him, man. And then the Ray Borg fight, Borg misses weight, sure, but, like, Bontorin had nothing to offer him. He couldn't take him down. He was routinely getting taken down. He had nothing off his back. Then he books a fight with Manel Kape and shatters his ankle. And now he's returning. It's been over a year off since then. So I don't think his cardio is going to be quite there. I don't think his takedowns are quite there. However, there's definitely a path to victory, and that it is get the fight to the ground. But, like, once he does, he's got better BJJ, he's got better top pressure, and hold this guy down. Most of Kai Kara-France fights are going to decision. Maybe Bontorin makes it to decision and can squeak one out, but I think it goes the other way. I think Kai Kara-France ends up winning the decision.
And they're actually finally giving you a good price on him. It could be overreaction by the betting markets right now because everyone has gotten absolutely crushed betting Kai Kara-France, but usually he's like minus 300. Like, he's a big-time favorite in these spots. Now they're actually giving you a playable line.
Yeah, and you always expect a lot out of him. But again, it's like you expect a lot out of him against Brandon Moreno, a guy that's been there, done that. Okay, you expect him to go out there against Brandon Royval. Like, the guy's fighting every other week. You know, he's on fire right now, and, you know, dude's extremely tough. It's like that I get. Now you're giving him a very winnable fight against Rogerio Bontorin. Again, he's coming off a 13-month layoff. He's coming off a bad ankle injury, and he's coming off some fights where he just hasn't looked extremely good. So I'd give the advantage to Kai Kara-France. Minus 135 is finally the first line that you can actually, you know, have a little taste of and not feel so bad about it. But he's a notorious, known apple pie shitter, right? And because the fight's going to go to decision and it's going to be close and it's going to be greasy, you're not going to feel great about it. But I think he comes on the other side of the decision. So I will take Kai Kara-France.
Makes sense to me. All right. We got Jordan Espinosa taking on Tim Elliott, minus 130 Espinosa, plus 100 for Tim Elliott. I've actually made a wager on this Sports Interaction. It's hanging a plus 800 on Tim Elliott by sub, and obviously you go through Jordan Espinosa's career. He's pretty quick on his feet. His striking is quite good. But where's he really struggled is, he got subbed in the first round by Alex Perez. He got subbed in the first round by Matt Schnell. Mm-hmm. Tim Elliott, and I know that Tim Elliott going to Glory MMA and Fitness, so obviously his last fight out there, he's a little bit more reserved, a lot more controlled in his action. He isn't gassing in round 2, which isn't the greatest, but I think that is his best path to victory. The guy's got some pretty decent subs if he can get you to the ground. He's obviously been a shit-eating wild man. People on DraftKings have always loved playing Tim Elliott because he tries to keep such a high pace. I think he's taking his career very, very seriously again. I think it's good for him to be back in that room with James Krause. James Krause doing a great job with that gym in general right now. I just thought 8-1. I saw it at like plus 375 elsewhere. It's just like I had to scoop that up. Yeah, I think it's a super close fight, and it's lined more or less right. The plus 800. If you have access to that, if you're Canadian, you can probably go hit that line while it's still around. I don't expect it to be around for long. Give me Tim Elliott. Just give me him based on the fact that I think he'll come in with a good game plan. I liked what I saw from his last fight out there. That James being in that room with James Krause seems to be able to has seemed to like calm him and get him back to fighting to his strengths. And his strength here and his advantage here, I think, is getting this fight to the ground, trying to make it a scramble fest like he is wont to do in a lot of situations, and trying to scoop up the subs. So plus 800, I couldn't pass it up.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you make a good point. Not only with Tim Elliott does he have the guillotine choke, he loves to fish for the neck. He's a guy that's attempted something like 14 submission attempts in his UFC career. So, like, he's not shy about going after it. And that's what you want when you're going after decision prop. But, like, one has to imagine that Tim Elliott just ain't the man he used to be. Glory MMA Fitness or not. He just, I don't know, at least something to be desired. He's basically Dominic Cruz if Dominic Cruz smoked a bunch of crystal meth before making the walk down to the octagon. Like, the movement's a poor man's version. He's super, super weird, super awkward. He loves throwing the straight punch. He loves darting in and out. He relies heavily on his head movement. He's just not nearly as fast as well, so he ends up getting caught. His cardio's not nearly as good as it used to be. He used to have infinite gas. The guy could go forever. Mm-hmm. Guy fought 5 rounds with Demetrius Johnson. Won a couple rounds, too. Tried to submit him twice. Like, it just would not get tired. And then he went to Vegas and he partied. Now he's back in Kansas. He's looking better. But it's like he's gassing in these spots. And with Espinosa doesn't got a great gas tank either. But it's like you got to wear on him and tire him out. And I just think he's going to have trouble tracking him. Small octagon in the Apex, that favors Tim Elliott because he's not going to have to go as much ways to catch a hold of him. But like Espinosa, the only really one thing that I like about him is that he is fast, man. He is very fast for this division. He's very athletic. He's a guy who's a former state wrestling champion in New Mexico. Doesn't wrestle a whole lot in the UFC. It's just he just beats these guys with a punch, moves in and out. And he's not a great striker either. And they have matched him up extremely, soft for the most part.
And when he has been matched up hard, he's faltered.
He has faltered, absolutely has faltered. But at least you see him in spots where it's like, the Mark De La Rosa fight, 126 significant strikes, right? He's quick, but it's more of a volume output. The Rakic Dvorak fight, his last time out, he loses. He gets massively neutralized by the leg kick. Like, his leg kick's done. He's even telling his corner between rounds, like, I really can't move off of it. And he doesn't fight particularly good, like much of a switch stance kind of guy. So could Elliott go out there and work the leg kick? Elliott loves working the leg kick. Could Elliott go and hook this guy's neck, which we've seen happen before with Jordan Espinosa? Elliott loves hooking this guy's neck. I think he's live dog. I think you're right. I think you chase him by submission. It's a huge prop. But like when I play it out in my head, like what I think is going to happen is that he's going to do his little zombie thing where he just doesn't cut angles. He just marches forward on you. And literally Espinosa is going to hit him and move. Hit him and move. Hit him and move. You won't be able to track him. It'll look a lot like Austin Lingo versus Yusuf Zalal. Maybe Lingo could beat this guy in a striking battle, but like not with this kind of movement. And that's ultimately what it ends up being. It's like being able to move side to side, dart in and out, and just be way faster. I think that's what happens. We talked about being old at flyweight. Like, Tim Elliott's an old 34, man. He's got 27 pro fights. He's been through the ringer multiple times. He's been signed and cut to the UFC multiple times. He's partied like an absolute world champion. And then he's actually fought for a world title, won the Ultimate Fighter. He's been around the game, no doubt about that. He's crafty. He's got some skills. He could definitely spring something. You're right. But like I think his best days are behind him, and speed's going to be a big disadvantage from here.
Yep. All right, we got Carlos Ulberg taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. Ulberg minus 245 favorite. Nzechukwu can be had for plus 205. Carlos Ulberg obviously fighting out of City Kickboxing, one of the main training partners of Israel Adesanya. Izzy got him that fight on Contender Series, I'm pretty sure. He's just like, this guy's in our gym.
Obviously, he was there.
He's only 3-0. Obviously, he's very, very young in his career. He wins that fight. Poor Lorosenko basically melts because Carlos Ulberg, quite a good looking.
He's a male model.
Male model, quite a good looking man. She was, I think she was a little flabbergasted by just his presence.
Where did you say he was out of?
City Kickboxing in New Zealand.
Well, by this picture, I think that he's straight out of 1951.
Well, Dana White Contender...
The Twilight Zone!
The Contender Series, if you've only fought on Contender Series, they have black and white. That's for all of our boards. Where I take the
You got to earn
the headshots from. You got to earn the color shot.
You got to. It takes a little mean to. You got to earn your colors.
I've never heard of this guy, but like, does he come out with security guards and the crowd's like, oh, Berg?
I mean,
he's 3-0. He's already on his way to
walkout. He kind of
156-0.
had like a security guard type of vibe for that one fight.
Yeah, they won't let him do that anymore, which is stupid. I mean, come on, man. Give these guys walkouts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he's looked good. Kennedy,
yeah,
Kennedy and Nzechukwu obviously came off of Contender Series as well, but he had to fight twice on Contender Series. The level of his competition, super, super low in that spot. I haven't been all that impressed by him. Minus 245 is a lot to pay for a guy who's very, very unproven. And only 3-0 in his career. But, you know, getting ready with Izzy, I'm sure he's seen all of the looks that Kennedy and Nzechukwu can really offer. So I like him to win, but minus 245, it's a little, when we don't know everything about this guy yet. And maybe there's a big hole in his game that we haven't seen yet. But yeah, pick is obviously Ulberg, but I'm a little scared about it. What about you?
Yeah, the UFC knows what they got in Ulberg is that he's already 30 years old, so he's a little bit older, but he's got a refined kickboxing game. He's got a lot of experience. He's training again at the hottest gym in MMA, City Kickboxing. He's one of the main training partners for Israel Adesanya, so he's got all that hype. And yeah, dude, the guy's a male model. Not only that, he was supposed to be on like Australia's version or New Zealand's version of The Bachelor. Like, apparently, you know, he's got a good image and he's got a good persona, and you bring this guy in, it's like you want to match him up accordingly. So it's like, okay, how can we move a guy who's already 30, who looks good, who's got some skills? How can we move this guy up as quick as we can without really having to expose him right away? It's like,
make him fight Elias, Canadian Bachelor.
You know why that wouldn't be a good fight is that Elias has mostly
just hold him up against the cage.
Yes. Elias has more of a game plan of grinding these guys. He'll try to shoot takedowns, but beyond that, he
Elias still in the UFC?
No.
But what if it's like a loser has to unbeautify themselves match, almost like a Judy Bagwell on a pole match, or loser leaves town?
A hair versus face match. If Elias loses, he's got to shave his head. If Carlos loses, he's got to put a scar on his face.
He's got to get a face tat.
Those guys, he'd probably still look pretty badass. He'd be like, damn, guy's cute.
Mm-hmm.
So cute. Listen, what I saw from Carlos on the Contender Series, again, this is another fight he took against Bruno Oliveira. He's a minus 215 favorite. He was 2-0, right? The UFC's got this thing where they claim he's 5-0, but you and I have seen this for years. The UFC does not mind embellishing a record real quick just to make it look a little bit better. Well, technical difficulties. Anyways, yeah, whatever. He's still young in his career, but he's got all the kickboxing experience. So if you just want to have an MMA kickboxing match with him, he's not out of his depth. Experience is no big deal. The guy's fought in one-night tournaments where he's fought multiple opponents in the same night, come out victorious. Yeah, like I think he's going to be good. He's also got good power, sharp striking, but he doesn't rely on this power early into the fights. Like he'll drag you out to rounds 2 or 3 and just pick you apart and take you out. Can knock you out early, which you saw against Bruno Oliveira. But again, as far as his kickboxing career goes, he didn't really have to rush anything. Kenney Nzechukwu, it's a great matchup that the UFC's putting together in that he's predominantly a striker, you know, and he's a fun guy, but he's really green and has got a bunch of holes in his game. And, you know, striking defense happens to be one of them. And he doesn't have this great ground game that he can rely on to take Carlos into deep waters. You
don't want to put a guy like Ulberg right now in there with someone who's just going to spam takedowns, because that is probably where the hole in his game exists.
Exactly. With Kennedy, he's the same way. Like, he doesn't want to get taken down. So the UFC's doing a good job here. Kennedy was supposed to be a super prospect. He also came off the Contender Series. He is a absolute freak of nature, man. 6'5", 83-inch reach. And he's like 26. It's like, whoo, this guy could be nice. You put him at 4-7 MMA, he's going to be getting better. You just haven't really seen those improvements, right? He fought Dennis Bryan on the Contender Series, didn't look all that good. The Paul Craig fight, he did not look good. And then he got triangled in the third, which I guess tends to happen with Paul Craig. But all the same, he didn't look really good. And then against Darko Stosic, again, he didn't really look all that good.
I mean, he got outstruck. Well, he gave up 4 takedowns to Darko.
The nut kicks.
The significant strikes were 50 for Nzechukwu and 60 for Stosic. Like,
and he still splits it out. Like, he gets a unanimous.
He got lucky on that decision.
He does. And then he takes a year and a half off. So again, nothing screams like I'd want a piece of him. However, the one thing you could maybe, when you look at this big of a price tag, is like, he was an athletic specimen prior to leaving for a year and a half. He is at 40s. He's 28 now. He could have made some improvements. And if he did, this guy could be a problem. But like what I saw from him, he was loopy, he was green, and his leg was prime for the taken. And so we've talked about the leg kicks on a number of these fights. It seems like it's going to be a trend and a reoccurring subject in fights that we're going to be discussing in the near future, just because it's the move. It's the move of the day. This is another prime spot for Ulberg to just chew up the leg, tire him out, leave him as a sitting target, and then beat this guy, right? So yeah, I think Ulberg's ready to rock. You know, he's just put in a full world championship training camp with Jan Blachowicz. Should be ready to go. Again, he's another guy that's got multiple training partners on the card. Jan, Kai Frost doesn't really train the guy in a day-to-day, but you know what I mean? Like, everyone's cutting weight together. Everyone's flying together. You're in the hotel together. Like, you got a good vibe, good momentum. I think the UFC knows what they're doing with this guy, and so I think Ulberg goes out there and gets the win. I would like to say by decision. He does got a ton of power, but Kennedy can take a shot as well. If it's just striking for 15 minutes, though, Carlos is going to have a lot of opportunities to put him away. So I don't love the over-under. It is a decent price, over 2.5 at plus 105, but I think I'll just hit a straight pass on that. If I'm going to bet any side, it'll just be Ulberg. Don't love the price, but he will be the pick.
All right. What were you going to say something, Pat?
Nope.
No, I thought I heard a little...
It's like a chair grind on the ground. A little,
just going.
A little Hummer. Pat's getting a Hummer. Pat's getting a Hummer around the sticks.
Ulberg.
All right. We got Sean Brady taking on Jake Matthews. Minus 220 for our guy, Sean Brady. Plus 180 for Matthews, who is coming off of 3 straight wins. Good for Matthews. But, like, I don't know. You go through... Who is Rostam, the human carpet?
Akam, yeah.
Rostam Akhmat, like, just has a freaking hair mat all. Yeah, he's the human sweater.
Wear a sweater in the octagon.
The other fights, they gave him great opportunities for a young kid to get back on track here. Sean Brady, 13-0. I just think every single facet of his game is just so much better, and the cardio is so much significantly better than Jake Matthews. I think Sean Brady is my pillar for like parlay pieces this week.
Yeah, I love Sean Brady. I hope he's not my apple pie shitter. But yeah, you and I have always been on Brady's side. He's got a lot of things that you can like. Is BJJ, you don't get to see him use it a whole lot, but like he's got really good grappling. He's got really good cardio. He's got a cast iron chin. He's got great striking. You know, his boxing is super technical. I really like Sean Brady. If there's one knack against him, it's like maybe he doesn't have, you know, that big power, that big finishing ability. But all the same, it's like there's a lot that you can like out of this guy. And I think moving forward, Sean Brady's going to factor himself really nice with the top 15, top 10 in the division. Only 28 years old, you know, at a good camp. And you see his wins. Like, he didn't look great against Court McGee in his UFC debut, but talk about a tough debut, taking on a 20-fight UFC veteran, former Ultimate Fighter winner, guy that's really durable, Court McGee. Goes out there, gives an okay of account of himself, not great of account of himself. The Ishmael Nordiev fight, he looked really good. That Christian Aguilera fight, that's a layup. But he does exactly what you do with a layup, and that's just absolutely dunk on this guy.
Yep.
Jake Matthews is just always going to be that, like, well, what if, you know? He was supposed to be a mega prospect.
Well, he was so young on the Ultimate Fighter. Well, he's like
19.
18, 19 years old. He was like 4-0. We've seen he's grown up in front of us. I just don't.
He's grown up in front of us. Sure.
You thought when he was that young, you thought, oh, well, if he's this good right now, where's that ceiling? And he's just never reached that ceiling.
That's what I mean. He's always that what if. And I think a large part of that is he never left the comfort of his own training center back home. His dad's his head trainer. His dad's always been his head trainer. He doesn't get a whole lot of looks. What's his best
He's like
path?
Australian Sage Northcutt.
Yeah, exactly. And now he's a BJJ
He's
black
got better.
belt.
He's got better grappling.
He's a BJJ black belt, but he always underachieves in the big spots. He's got a big win over Jing Liang Li, and outside of that, it's kind of some soft opposition. When I say he's like falters, like Deshaun, this is his run. Deshaun Johnson, no longer with the company. Wagner Roca, no longer with the company. Loses to James Vick, who's no longer with the company. He's now retired. But he's a 2-1 favorite over James Vick, and he loses. That's his first spot. Then that Akbar Theriola fight. You're one of the few people I can talk to about that fight. They
gave him a layup. Akbar Theriola was a layup at that time.
He got booted in the head with the nastiest head kick.
He ended up pulling it off, but it
right.
It was
and
dicey.
For what it's worth, he was a 10-1 favorite over Akbar Theriola.
Insane.
Right. Coming off a loss as a 2-1 favorite against Vic, it's like they've always thought this guy's going to achieve this great status. He beats Johnny Case. That's a nice win. I thought he looked good in that fight. And then, you know, they give him Kevin Lee, who ended up being the actual prospect. He loses very convincingly, knocked out in the first. Then they give him another layup. Andrew Holbrook at home, minus 500 favorite over Andrew Holbrook. He loses a split. So this is multiple spots now. Even the Kevin Lee fight, he's a minus 150 favorite over Kevin Lee. He's now lost 3 times as a favorite. Right, insane that we value him over a guy like Kevin, but it's like They were both young. They were both inexperienced. And it's like, people really thought Jake Matthews was going to be the man. His win over Boyan, no longer with the company. Shinzo Anzai, no longer with the company. Lost to Rocco Martin. He was a minus 150 favorite over Rocco Martin. That's his fourth favorite defeat. And then Rostam Akam, Emil Weber Meek. And if Diego Sanchez wasn't the most legendary character of all time, he'd also be cut. All of these guys are not chalking the job no more.
So washed at this point. Like you can't compare a win against Diego Sanchez to a guy like Sean Brady at this point.
Exactly. And so I think that's been the benefit for Jake Matthews, is that like Jake Matthews has largely fought very middling level guys. The 4 times he stepped up, he lost. He was the favorite in all 4 of those spots. He does have a wing over Jing Lang Lee. You can't discredit him from there. But beyond that, it's like he was a really big 155er. And now that he's at 170, like he's just not all that big. His wrestling's not all that good, but it's less effective now that he's fighting bigger guys. His grappling, he's, again, BJJ black belt, but he's not one of these massive submission threats, can fight out of every position, good off his back, and his striking it leaves something to be desired. So let's talk about his cardio per se. It's like he looked really tired at the end of the 3rd round against Emil Weber Meek 2 fights ago, right? Like it was like grinding took that pace out of him. The Rostam Akman fight, he fucking lost one of those rounds, man. Like he did not look good whatsoever. But here's actually really interesting stat for you. So he's been fighting in the UFC for 6 years. He makes his debut in New Zealand. 2nd fight, Australia. 3rd fight, Australia. 4th fight, Australia. 5th fight, Australia. 6th fight, Las Vegas. He lost to Kevin Lee. 7th fight, Australia. 8th fight, Australia. 9th fight, Australia. 10th fight, Singapore, close to Australia. 11th fight, Australia. 12th fight, Australia. 13th fight, New Zealand. 14th fight against Diego Sanchez, last time Abu Dhabi. He's fought once in the States in his 6-year UFC tenure, and he lost to Kevin Lee. Well, this is going to be his 2nd loss in Las Vegas when he comes down there and takes on Sean Brady. I think Brady keeps the fight standing and he has strikes. So if Matthews does manage to get the fight to the ground, Brady is not out of his element. He'll be fine. He'll scramble back up. He'll throw up submissions. He'll make this guy work. He'll tire him. He'll make him question himself. He'll break this guy. Brady by decision. Over 2.5 is not a great price tag, so I'm just going to go with the Brady by decision instead of chasing a prop here. But I think we're on the same page, man.
100%. All right, we got Amanda Lemos taking on Lavina Souza, minus 230 Lemos, plus 190 Souza. Originally, when I kind of looked at this one, I was just like, that seems like an insane amount of value on Souza in this spot. Lemos isn't exactly a world beater. Obviously, Souza coming from, back in the day in Invicta. She was a former champion.
Awesome.
It looked like when she was going to transfer to UFC that she was going to be one of the people in the mix, And it's never really played out. And the biggest problem and why I've talked myself off of the idea of making a bet on Souza here is just you go through the stats of all of her fights, and she just doesn't throw enough.
No.
There's just not enough volume. You're not going to win a fight. And Lemos, for her credit, and her 2 wins there, she's getting over like 70 significant strikes. I think one of them she cracked like 120. Like, if we're on the feet, we're hanging out. Souza just doesn't throw enough. She's not very, very strong for the division, so it's not like she can muscle people down and really do big-time controlling on the ground. It seems really, really wide. I thought, hey, this might be a nice little value play on Souza, but she hasn't shown any propensity to throw 75, 80 significant strikes up on the board, and I think she's going to need that if she's going to pull it off in this fight. Like that Brianna Van Buren fight, it's just like just not enough action. There hasn't been enough action from her in any of her fights, and she was such a badass in Invicta. Yeah. Expected so much more, but it's a pass for me. I think I'm going to pick Lemos to get the win, but price is a little bit too much. What about you?
Listen, man, I was a huge Liviane Souza fan coming out of Invicta. She just looks like a world beater, strawweight champion, and has fought in some actual legitimate competition. As a win over Hamasaki, it's just like, man, I like what I see out of her. Beyond that, though, she's got all of the on-paper skills in the world. BJJ black belt, member of the Brazilian national wrestling team, was a member of the Brazilian Olympic judo team. Striking's good, has decent cardio, like strong, got all these variables, and has just been really, really lackluster in a UFC career. I mean, a win over Alex Chambers, you don't even have to talk about that. The Sarah Froda fight, well, she missed weight, but she didn't look good there. The Brianna Van Buren fight, she did not look good there. And then the Ashley Yoder fight, she did not look good. She doesn't throw enough. Her striking is just not advanced. She doesn't have more than a few moves, and when she throws out those moves a few times, she just has trouble figuring out what's next. There is no plan B. So what she tries to do is she tries to rely on the trips, right? She's got decent trip takedowns because of that judo background, decent, maybe a single leg, but try to force the fight to the ground. But if she's not able to get the fight to the ground, she just looks like a deer in headlights. With Frauda, there was moments where she couldn't get the fight to the ground. She looked out of place. When she was on the ground and Frauda got on top of her, wasn't a great spot. But it's that Van Buren fight where it's like she can't take down Brianna Van Buren, so now she has to strike with her. She just can't, She's not throwing enough. She's getting chipped away. She's allowing the points to get away from her. So you give her Ashley Yoder. I am all over her in that Ashley Yoder fight. I will admit, Paul, maybe she lost that Ashley Yoder fight. I hate to say it, but it was like that was a really close fight against an opponent that was more or less just able to back you up. You didn't throw shit. You allowed her to get off a little bit more. There's just not quite enough out of her, right? With Amanda Lemos, it's like she's a girl that debuted to no expectation. She got her ass kicked by Leslie Smith, standing TKO, loses her debut, takes 2 years off, comes back against Miranda Granger. She's an underdog to Miranda Granger, and she wins. Then she's an underdog to Mizuki Inoue, and she wins. Look good in that fight. And now she's, a big 230 favorite over Livian Souza. And I just can't get behind her. This is one of the fights I mentioned on the top of the show. You just missed the line, right? So Livian Souza opened as a minus 215 favorite. And Livian Souza is currently a plus 165 underdog. Imagine that swing. So Amanda Lemos opened up as a plus 165. Amanda Lemos is currently a minus 230. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, you missed the opportunity.
You missed it. Just pass. Just walk away. And the over-under is not any good, so just walk away.
Yep. Euros Medic takes on Alan Cruz, minus 165. Medic plus 145. Alan Cruz. I don't think Alan Cruz is what, quote unquote UFC caliber, and I know that doesn't really actually mean all that much. I did like what I saw from Euros Medic on Contender Series. I'm surprised that that they're just feeding us this minus 165 line though. Is there a trap to be had here or something, Cody? Because
likely.
I like me some Euros Medic in this spot.
Yeah, so with Elon Cruz, you got to consider yourself, who are the best 5 rappers in the world? Elon, because he spits hot fire. But this is a fist fight, and it'd be a little bit different. This is the other fight that you likely missed the line on. Euros opened up as plus 105, and it was like, okay, sign me up. And yet he's rightfully minus 165 now. Now it's starting to get to the range where it's like, is it a little bit too much? But it didn't swing as much as Lemos swung, so it's like you can still get in, not feel terrible. The reason why people are largely going in with Euros, it's more like narrative more than anything. So he's an Alaska FC guy, which we don't like.
No.
He's fought at a really low level. He's fighting on this low level at 185 pounds, okay? Eventually decides, I'll go to 170, makes 170, never looks at a place at any point. And then he signed, but he's fought nobody. They give him a Contender Series fight against Mikey Gomez. So he comes into that fight at 155 pounds. And this guy's fucking huge, man. He is a big, strong guy. He's a fight at middleweight. And against Mikey Gonzalez was coming up from featherweight. He was a karate guy. And once his rinky-dink striking didn't work out, he's spinning a lot. He started to get tired. It was like he just got taken over by Euros. Euro smashes him. Why would we want this guy from Alaska FC? He's won 1 fight on Contender Series. Is that he leaves Alaska, goes to King's MMA. That's good. That's a positive. Working with Rafael Cordero, working out with guys like Kelvin Gastelum and Benil Dariush. Puts him in a position to win. But more so than going to a good camp to put yourself in a position to win is getting Ali Abdelaziz as a manager is getting yourself a position to win. And that's also his manager. So Euros, there's that little bit of hype. Obviously, he does look like a good prospect. The guys like Marvin Vittori that are in camp with him all say that they like him. Big, strong guy. I like that. Now, Elon Cruz physically appears to be a big guy as well. I mean, look at him, dude. He's 6 feet tall with a 78-inch reach at 155 pounds. That's crazy. Right, but here's what you got to factor in. So his last 2 fights, the one on Contender Series against Steve Nguyen was at 145, and then he lost to Spike Carlisle in the UFC at 145. So
finished in the first round against Spike.
Knocked down in the first round against Spike. So he's been literally the majority of his career, like 95% of his career, has been at 145. Even though he's coming up at 155 and he will fill out the frame well, he's taking on a guy that's been fighting at middleweight, coming down to 155. He's big, strong, physical, been training at King's MMA, good camp. As far as it stays striking, Elon is a good striker. He's a very flashy guy. He has that flying knee on the Contender Series. He's got a few moves here and there. But if it was going to be plus 105 euros, you take euros all day. If it's minus 135 euros, you take euros. If it's minus 165 at some point, you start to get, a little questionable. But I think Ali got him a good fight here, and he should go out there and get the job done. And the last thing there with Elon Cruz is that he's taken over a year off. coming back in. He pulled out of a fight with Steven Peterson. No, sorry, I don't know. The fight got scrapped, and then he's taken a little over a year off, coming into a new weight class, 0-1 in the UFC. And it's just not a ton there that you could like. You like him a lot better now that he's plus 145, but I would say I'm going to side with Euros.
And finally, we got Mario Bautista taking on Trevin Jones, minus 240 Bautista, plus 200 Jones. Mario Bautista looks like all the skills are kind of coming together for this guy. I mean, we were talking about it earlier, training with Casey Kenney. Casey Kenney.
And Kyler Phillips.
And Kyler Phillips. Two of his main training partners also grinding, getting ready for today. Minus 240 seems like a lot, but I'm considering parlaying him with our boy Sean Brady. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, the one thing with Trevin Jones, because I love Mario Bautista, don't get me wrong. The one thing with Trevin Jones is like, man, this guy's got a way of just coming back on you. He's got to be like either the luckiest or unluckiest guy of all time, but he shows 3 losses by split decision on his record and had the biggest win of his career over Timur Valiev reversed to a no contest. Like, that's bad luck, man. In a different world, this guy's got a much prettier looking record and a huge win over Timur Valiev. But facts are facts, and he was getting beat up in that first round against Valiev. In the second round, he's able to turn the tide with the check right hook, put him down. I like what I see out of Trevin Giles in that. Trevin
you never
Jones.
Like what you saw out of Trevin Giles.
No. He's a better police officer than he is a UFC fighter. That's for sure. I liked what I see out of Trevin Jones in that southpaw, good left hand, straight down the middle, good right hook, got some power, paces himself a little too much. I don't really like his output. If he gets taken down, he's got bad takedown defense, but he does work his way back up. He's got a lot of experience. He's fought some decent guys. And then he goes out there and springs a great upset on the basis of he's durable. He's got a good chin. Takes you into some later rounds. And then he gets a positive. But like, man, was it a performance enhancer? I'll tell you something, Paul. I've smoked grass. I've smoked green. I smoked ganja. I smoked herb. I smoked Mary Jane. One time, I even tried pot. It's not a performance enhancer. Trevin Jones won that fight legit. That no contest is an absolute pain in the ass. But they've given him no favors in matching him up against Mario Bautista, who's got skills everywhere. I really like Bautista. This is a guy out of MMA Lab. He's got great pace, good output, good striking, good wrestling. You see him in the Corey Sandhagen fight. He gets a takedown over Corey Sandhagen, catches the kick, takes him down. But it's everything he's done since then. It's the improvements to his game. And you see he's capable of going out and landing over 100 significant strikes. And then in the last fight against Miles John, this is where I really thought, geez, Mario Bautista is going to develop into a nice little fighter here, is that loses to Corey Sandhagen, humming experience, submitted, got a takedown, got dropped in that fight too, but persevered. Then the Jinsu Sun fight, he lands 129 significant strikes. When he gets taken down, he scrambles back up. Great output, great cardio. I like him. Then the Miles Johns fight, he keeps flashing that flying knee. Like, buddy, I'm timing you, and I'm going to catch you with this move. And then boom, he does. It's like this guy's got good ring IQ as well. He knows when to get the fight to the ground. He knows when the fight to keep standing.
He's in a good room.
He's in a great room, training with some of the best bantamweights in the world, right? Whether you think, Casey Kenney and Kyler Phillips, again, Sean O'Malley's in that room.
You've had quality sparring partners.
On a day-to-day basis. It's become a destination gym, right? The MMA Lab, they do great work there. And again, they're really big on this low calf kick, this leg kick. Neutralize the guy, work him. Benson Henderson was really the first guy to kind of use it back in the day. And you see Drakkar Klose uses it effectively. It's kind of like one of the staples out of the gym. With Trevin Jones, he does have kind of a longer stance. The leg is going to be there to get kicked. But beyond that, he doesn't have no takedown defense. So like all Bautista's got to do is kick the leg, use his striking a little bit, better output. He's going to have way better output, but just mix in those strikes, man. Even if he gets back up, that's fine. Sorry, mix in the takedown. Even if he gets back up, totally fine. It's going to score on the judges' scorecards. And, you don't get caught by that right hook in the second round and make me, lose it. But I like Mario Bautista. I think he's got the goods. I think he goes out there and pulls it off. And, minus 240 is not a great price tag. But with Trevin Jones, like, had the ref just stopped the fight in the first round against Timur Valiev, which he could have, right? There would be no narrative of like, this guy, maybe he's good, because he showed you a little perseverance. That's good. But was the skill quite there? Not exactly just yet. And the last thing is that he trades out of Guam, and he's never left Guam. He's still in Guam now. So I don't know what his room's like. I don't know what level he's training at, but Bautista's been off a year, and apparently it's just made him hungrier, and he's in great shape, and injuries are not a problem. So I'll back him.
Quick question.
Put me on the spot, yeah.
Who Who went after the Cisco look first? Derek Brunson or Trevin Jones? I imagine Pat's got his hand up, so I bet you it's a Cisco reference because we got a... No? Is that
I was going to say, is this going to be a problem for Mario Bautista that he's fighting Demolition Man since that guy's from the future?
Yeah, I thought you were going to go with Cisco, but Demolition Man works as well.
Okay, but here's the thing that you got to realize is that look, as stupid as it may or may not have actually appear, has been hot fire lately. You got Derek Brunson rocking the look for no reason and coming out awesome. Charles Oliveira decides to rock the look, comes out something special. It's like, man,
Sun in his back, or the bleach look is back.
Yeah, the first guy I seen do it though was that William Macario.
He was
he was so shit, man.
He did not make it work.
No, man, that was brutal. But yeah, no, beyond that, it's been yielding success. You know, there used to be like the Slim Shady curse, like guys that walked out to Eminem lost. It's like this platinum hair thing for whatever reason. I hope it's not a trend that picks up, but yeah, the guys that, if you're gonna look like a fool, you better go out there and shut everybody up. And you know, Derek Brunson and Charles Oliveira did exactly that. Trevin Jones, meanwhile, I don't think so. Mario Bautista is my boy. I'll give him another ride here.
All right, we are just about out of time here, but before we go, hit the people with the PRP.
Yeah, well, we got 15 fights. I'm sure some of them will fall off, and some books don't offer 15 fight parlays, so we'll shave off some of those passes that
a lot
we're
of
looking
places
at.
like 12 is the max you can parlay
which
together.
again, you can cut off a couple of these, but yeah, for what it's worth, we're gonna go with Israel Adesanya, Amanda Nunes, Peter Yan is even money, Islam Makhachev, Thiago Santos is dog number 1. I'm gonna take Dominic Cruz, dog number 2, Kyler Phillips, dog number 3, Joseph Benavidez, dog number 4. I'm gonna go Kev Carfrost. I'll go with Jordan Espinosa. I'm gonna go with Carlos Ulberg, Sean Brady, Amanda Lemos, Euros Medic, and Mario Bautista. So we got 4 dogs. They're kind of in that middle portion of the card. But again, you don't gotta chase dogs. Like if some of them are close to even money, or I don't know. I mean, everyone's got their own betting strategy. I just hope those are my thoughts on it. I like this card. I know we haven't exactly been having this most stellar of results to 2021. I'm 1-5 personally, I think, in the first 6 cards of the year. But, you know, I've been mitigating a lot of the damage, you know, live to fight another day mentality. And yeah, it's just a matter of time, man. You got to get a good offering, a good spot. This is 15 fights.
Yeah, I mean,
pick and choose what you like and get at it.
I've written down a few things that I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Once we're off here. Brady Bautista parlay. Going to hit that. I got Thiago Santos, Kyler Phillips, Nadich, I'm not so sure, but I'll have to look deeper into that. And then the over 2.5 in the main event, co-main event, I like the over 1.5 rounds, and Jan Sterling over 3.5 rounds. So that's a lot of plays that I'm actually interested in this week.
I got some for you.
Megan Henderson round 1 KO is probably like 25-1.
Well,
she doesn't necessarily have to finish in round 1. 14-1. I think if you're gonna go down that route, if you're gonna do that, I've wasted money a lot worse.
So Anderson inside the distance by itself and a part of a parlay.
That's
so
insane.
that's leg 1 of the parlay. So we got Israel -225 along with it. Sean Brady by decision +130. Bautista -225. Casey Kenney, who just after listening to you guys talk, it sounds like he's going to win, and you just like Dominic Cruz. So Kyler Phillips
Sigs and booze.
+125. That together, friends, 204-1.
Pats can't lose parlay.
I also played it as a round robin of 3 parlays as
just in case.
Just in case that one hits.
Just in case Megan Anderson doesn't beat the best women fighter of all time.
If that world exists, and I don't want to live in it.
World, if that doesn't actually happen, at least I like that you're not cutting yourself off.
Oh, that's not why I did it. I did it because in case I'm wrong on the other one, but I still want that as a parlay piece.
You know what? This is why I like this card beyond anything else, right? Is that every other week we're talking about low-level MMA.
Mm-hmm.
Bad fighter.
These are great fighters on this card.
You got Izzy Blachowicz, both world-class. Amanda Nunes, Megan Anderson, both world-class. Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan, Makhachev, Dober, Rakic, Santos, Casey Kenney, Cruz. So far, we're all world-class. Yadong, Phillips, they're both future top 15, top 20 guys. Joseph Benavidez, the legend in his own right. Askarov, the man. Kai Carfrost, busted prospect, but still a top 20 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Bontorin is not great. Espinosa is not great. Elliott used to be the man. You know, who wouldn't want to see that guy in the card? I'm saying is it's better to get a read on those guys. It's like you've seen the body of work, kind of know where they're at, you know what they're going to give you. Whereas like the Uros Medic of the world, right? And yeah, we're considering a bet on him. But with those guys, like who the fuck knows what's gonna happen, man? He's making his UFC debut. You know, is he gonna struggle to make 55? Is Cruz gonna all of a sudden be twice the fighter he was before because he had the layoff? And maybe 55 is a better weight class for him. He's too big at featherweight. You know, he's cutting too much weight. There's narratives. I want these narratives. I want to think skill for skill who wins this fight. And so, yeah, I mean, best of luck, my friend. I think had a good time chatting fights with you today.
There's a lot more of like a track record with a lot of these fighters. So it's a lot easier. When you watch a lot of tape on like regional scene fighters, you're watching it, but you're like, all right, how does this translate to a massive step up in competition? Right. With a lot of these fighters, we know what they're good at. We know what they're where their holes in their games are. There's just so much more information. Now, you know, that allows for the books to probably have a sharper line on a lot of spots as well.
They're pretty sharp. Especially
We've been missing the dogs barking, obviously, in the last couple months, but
it's only been 2 fucking months of the year, Paul. The last couple of months, he says. Anyways, yeah, what better way to get back in the win column than this card, which is, it's the card of the year, right? It's a big pay-per-view. There'll be a lot of exposure, a lot of eyeballs on it. And, yeah, I agree. So hopefully the 4 underdogs that I'm backing are the 4 that come through. And if we get cancellations on the card, please, Lord. Souza Lemos, not the end of the world.
Yep.
Medic Cruz, it really wouldn't be the end of the world.
Bontorin versus Kaikara France, I don't need to see it.
Yeah, and if there had to be a 4th one, Espinosa Elliott, but I've never watched Elliott fight and had a bad time.
I would be upset to lose a Tim Elliott
I wouldn't. That's why I said if there had to be a 4th one, just because I don't love it from a betting perspective. But as a fan, as an entertainment perspective, Tim Elliott all day.
Remember to tune into Mayo Media Network this week. You'll have the main event breakdown with Mad Lab and his buddy Anthony.
Which is the funniest fucking thing in the world.
It's really actually pretty fun. They've got a great chemistry between the two of them. Just 2 guys having fun, busting each other's balls, good times. And then Brett, one of the best guys at DraftKings and the analytics side of things, gives you his top plays. You know, that he likes from a DraftKings perspective. So great content here on Mayo Media Network. Pat.
Yeah, Cody, when you tweet out at CJ Saftic on Twitter, every time right before the card, you tweet out your levels of the PRP and the parlays.
Yeah.
Before you hit send, check to see if any of the fights have been canceled first, because you've done it like 3 weeks in a row.
He's in the barn. He's taking care of his horses.
Yeah, you gotta realize I got 2 racehorses. I got 2 racehorses I'm doing myself full time, and then 20% of a 3rd racehorse. Who he trained good today, Paul. Man, nice. fingers crossed for old Dukepedia.
You're gonna make you rich.
I only own 20%. So like what? If you won $100,000, which is like the realistic expectation,
20 G's.
20 G's over the course of a year. You gotta bust.
Fuck that! I'm gonna win 20 G's off this parlay.
It's true.
Right. I've made 20 G's, in 3 days, a lot quicker than I do fucking getting bit every day by old Duke. He is such a pain in the ass, Paul.
But he's a good racer. So
you know what? I call him like a trophy wife. Like at home in the barn, holy fuck, man, I'm going to blow my brains out. But like out on the streets when people are watching, it's like, what's up? How you like me? Now that's Duke. Everyone looks at him when he goes by, but oh my God, what a pain in the ass. Such is life. Normally I take a nap, right? So I look at the card. Well, I look at the card all the time, but I take a nap. I wake up. I'll tweet it out. And then, someone will be like, this fight fell off last minute. Also, check the timestamps, Pat. Sometimes I tweet it out and 20 minutes later the fight falls off. But people see the tweet.
Most of the time it's already dropped off. I've seen it.
Sounds like you guys are a pair of fucking haters to me.
I mean, I always find it funny that like everyone responds, hey, this fight is off. But you look at it and there's like 9-10 people all writing the exact same thing to you underneath that thread. People don't click, like you could easily click on it and be like, oh, 17 people have already told Cody that this fight is off of the card. But
what?
I mean, people are looking out for you. Make sure you don't add it to parlay. Some books.
Well, who cares?
Sometimes
it's a push. Who gives a shit?
Certain books sometimes, not so much in COVID times, but like if they think that the fight is going to be rebooked, sometimes they'll hold those parlays. I've been greased like that before.
Yeah, that's why you play at legit books.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, fair. But here's the thing, Paul and Pat. This is working on a different level. If you accidentally, purposely put one of the canceled fights in it, then you
just add Duke in his next race to that parlay. Juice it right up. You just add it to yours.
He's like 6 weeks away from racing.
6 weeks away.
Let's say Kaikara France Bontorin gets canceled, right? You put out the tweet, you take that fight off, nothing happens. You put out the tweet, you have Kaikara France. You guys are right. I do have 27 people message me the exact same thing. That's 27 comments, which creates interactions, which makes it a better post. And I'm not into social media, so I don't really care about this stuff. But I'm saying is at least you got people talking. I like when people interact, but people want to see you win, man. You have a couple bad cards, you're fucked. Like, these people are ruthless, but it's the internet, so you wouldn't have it any other way.
The people that are ruthless have 0 followers. There was that like fucking egg
But
that was giving you a hard
man.
time the other day.
It's part of the biz.
He's like, oh, I've just been fading you. Well, good luck, kid. Because, I mean, if you did that at the beginning of I don't know who that person is.
How about the last 7
probably
years?
some sort of salty tout or something that doesn't like what we do.
Okay, so
but if you did that back in March at the beginning of the pandemic through like July, you would be collecting all of the CERB. You'd be collecting some extra change on the street because Cody was so hot fire.
No,
so
it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with this.
Don't attack
right?
Cody.
This is why the guy is lying. So a bad night is 6-6 on a 12-fight card, right?
Yeah.
So if you fade somebody on a 6-6, you're going 6-6. So now you say, well, yeah, but the underdog hits. Okay, underdogs have hit 40% this year through 2021. So are you fading me, or are you just fading the bookmaker? Why not just go bet every single underdog and you would be massively profitable at this point of the year? So yeah, I don't care. They like to get under your skin because they're like, hey, honey, I just totally fucking ripped that guy away. Oh, wait, I don't have a girlfriend. And then they go back to their shitty fucking life. So it doesn't really bother me. Like, I don't know. I know it sounds like I'm bothered right now. I just mean, it's the internet. I would expect, you know, we talk shit about a fighter here and there. Oh, this guy had no heart. Oh, this guy had chinny. Oh, this guy's a pro fighter.
I mean, all these pro fighters would kick the living shit out of me.
Yeah, like I get it. So if you want to call me a jerk off, like, you know, you're entitled to your opinion. But what I don't appreciate is if you send 20 or 30 messages in a row with no response, you're just talking to yourself. Like, you're now a crazy person, right? A properly sane, well-adjusted human being wouldn't do that. They'd tell you, fuck you, blowjob, and go on about their business. But like, nobody piles on 30 messages from an account that got created 3 days ago.
An
like,
egg.
You'd have to be a really sad man. And if that's the case, I hope to win you some money. Or if you fade me the other way, whatever. But
I hope you lose your money.
I hope you lose your money, Eggman.
I mean, all I do, and it doesn't happen too often though, but like
You, like,
generally,
muted.
if my first interaction with you is negative, you're muted at this point. I'll never see your messages. Maybe if somebody responds to your message, I'll see, and then I'll like click on it and be like, was I justified in muting this guy? I'll kind of like search me and their handle, see if it pops up anything, and then most of the time it's like, yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah. My problem is, and I feel bad about this part, is that I used to get like, I don't know, 20, 30 notifications. So I would go through them, and I made a point of writing everybody back. I like interacting with the fans. I appreciate the support. I appreciate people tuning into the show.
It's hard to keep up with all that now.
Now it is very difficult, man. Now you get like 200-300 notifications, and you have 100 questions, and some of the people are really genuine, and some of these people are disingenuine. And beyond all that, I'll get questions like,
Disingenuine.
what time do the fights start? You know, it's just like, man,
I'm not fucking Google, pal.
Yeah, exactly. Or they'll be like, oh, who do you think will win in this fight? It's like, I've done 3 shows this week. Like, clearly
you're
could watch
responding
any of
to
the
a
3.
tweet. Yeah.
Come on.
Do you really like this guy? It's just like, well, he's in my parlays, so yes.
Yeah, now there's some questions, you know, hey, this guy missed weight. What do you think? What are your take on it? And now I can't get to those because I'm so desensitized to seeing all the questions that it's like I'm not even.
Can't keep up with it.
I'm not going through them, right? So now on fight day, I try to dedicate that to be the day. Go talk to people, answer questions, send out some tweets. But yeah, if that's not good enough for some people, like what can I do, right? I'm racing horses. I'm living my life. I'm having a great time doing it. So like I just want to keep being happy and doing the do. But you know what would be even better, Paul Shaughnessy?
What's that?
To cram one on
Let's
this
get
UFC
back on
pay-per-view,
track.
so.
Let's have a fucking
And then we'll
heater.
drink some beers next week.
100%. All right, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftic and Pat Mayo, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.